All right, what's up, Facebook, Facebook world, War Media? What's going on? People out there who are supporters, friends, family alike. Uh, Back on Facebook for a special Monday session. We usually call these the Varsity shows. These special sessions we do, because we typically attack a lot of different things and everything on the sports side. Just a variety of things. Coming up should after 7 should be seeing be joined by our guys Ken Davis and Sean Terry. And but right now you see me back at it with Dedrian Cologne, the one and only.
Thank you. It seems like I'm doing this. I'm sorry. It seems like I'm doing this like every other day.
You're getting your reps in, man.
I know.
Dedrian is a much people want. He's much in demand. He's a lot of wrestling talk and stuff, and that's what we're gonna do here for the first part of this show. Getting to what I like to call Monday Night War.
Ooh,
talking
nice
about
play on words.
Yeah, I like that. Came to me, and came to me over the weekend. But just going over the wrestling stuff. I think if you saw last time we was on, that's what we did, and Monday Night War. I think it's going to be a recurring thing we do coming up next year. But just want to hit y'all with a little piece of it because there's still a lot that's going on that's pretty interesting in the wrestling world right now. AEW, WWE, gearing up to quite a few big year-end shows that are popping up, and I want to talk about one in particular that is not always big on the radar, but it ties into our guy Kenny Omega that we've been talking about a lot recently, and that's the AAA Mania down there in Mexico. They say he put on the classic down there with this guy Laredo Kid. I don't know. Did you hear about that?
You know what? I was watching a bit of the highlights. There's a Instagram account, Lucha Libre Online. It's a verified account and everything. So they were posting like snippets on their Instagram stories. So I was jumping from there to the Impact pay-per-view Final Resolution, and then after Resolution was the New Japan World Cup. So it was right after. So I'm juggling between all three, and from what I've seen, I mean, it was a really good display of just showcasing his skill set and everything, and just why he's the champion, why he's somewhat touted as the collector of
right. That's what I was about to say. He wants to be the belt collector, man.
Man, he's like a Thanos.
I really like that, man. I like a guy who goes out and says, "Look, I'm not only the best in the world. I'm going to prove it. I'm gonna go to multiple promotions, multiple styles of fighting, wrestling, in multiple countries, and I'm gonna do my thing." And I've heard a little bit of talking about that he's gonna go after Rich Swann in Impact. And you say you watched a little bit of that this week. He went against what was it, Chris Bay for the championship?
Yeah, they actually were the main event, which was that was a really good main event. And it was actually historic because I believe it was in the last 20 years, one of three main events that had two African Americans, fighting for the heavyweight championship, which is, it took me a while to like register. I was like, oh wait, we got two African. It's like, okay, this is dope.
Well, yeah. What would else that have happened? I'm thinking.
It was Lashley and Moose.
Okay.
And The Rock and Booker T.
Rock and Booker T. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if they were just talking about Impact or they talking about everything, but yeah, okay. But yeah, Rock and Booker T. That makes sense.
Yeah. So I mean, it was a really good showcase. It was their swag and everything. And what was cool was that, man, it's weird because Omega, I guess he taped his portion of Final Resolution, I guess on Tuesday when it aired, and stuff like that. And he was also on the AAA pay-per-view. And then Rich Bay was on. I think that's his name, right? Rich
Chris
Bay.
Bay. I think
Chris
it's
Bay. There we go. I get him and Rick Swan mixed up. So Chris Bay was, on the Impact pay-per-view, but then later on he was on the New Japan pay-per-view. So it was like you had two guys who were on, two pay-per-views. But yeah, it was a really good showcase. I'm looking forward to Impact because I know Omega's going to show up. So I think that might be the start of him challenging for the world title. Because I know they announced on Final Resolution that Genesis is returning, the pay-per-view. And it's going to be, what is it, the 9th of January? So it's actually a few days after Dynamite. So it's just like, all right, this is going to be fun. And then at the end of the month, you're going to have Hard Justice. So, yeah, it's going to be, January's going to be a really good month. So, Omega, he's going to challenge that. But what was real interesting about Resolution was that Omega brought on the Good Brothers to his bus.
Okay, yeah, I saw it with
Machine Gun.
Yeah.
So you got that.
I know you're excited about anything that's tying into Bullet Club.
Yes.
Reestablishing itself.
Yes. So it was a good tease. The promo, Omega and Don Callis like, hey, are we gonna see old school Machine Gun, not this Machine Gun that just came over and everything. No, I want Machine Gun, and he did his thing. I think he fought Ethan Page, and he beat him. He beat him. So then they went back and
let's talk about him leaving Impact now.
Yeah, so I mean it was a really good show. The matches from top to bottom were it was good quality and everything. It was a good pay-per-view if you wanted to watch something entertaining, but something along the lines of wrestling. It was a perfect pay-per-view for it.
That was just on their streaming service, right? Was it Impact
I think so. Yeah, I think it was. So I mean, it was entertaining.
It'd been nice if they put it on Access or something.
Yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they do it.
I know they want to get some money.
Yeah. So I mean, it was a good pay-per-view. It was a good build-up for Impact and then Dynamite. So I mean, it's going to be another good week of,
they're making it so that you got to watch one with the other now.
Yeah.
So it's like if you want to keep up with that, you got to watch. So that's good business with each other.
Yeah, and it's funny you mention that because now that I think about it, WWE could have done that with Raw and SmackDown when they were on Monday and Tuesday. So it's
they try to act like it's two different shows, and
it's like,
but you could do different things. We talked last time too about how they had Drew McIntyre, and they did the quick run up with Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns, and it led to a pretty decent match. Yeah. And they just don't do enough to utilize their roster in innovative ways. Yeah. And to that degree, Raw's gonna be on in about 20 minutes. They're gonna start another long slug through 3 hours, but they got, you're right. Somebody gonna be in the ring for 20 minutes just talking. But they got it is a go home show, so you would hope that there's some sort of different energy to the show because they got table, ladders, and chairs coming up. But they don't really got no good storylines. You look at Raw, they got McIntyre going against AJ Styles. AJ Styles got the big black brother who ain't speaking, he just standing in front of people and he's his bodyguard and stuff. Go ahead.
He reminds me. I don't know if you remember when Ron Simmons and Butch Reed first came out as Doom when they had the mask on.
I don't quite remember that, but I know.
And they had woman. Actually, woman was Nancy Benoit, Chris Benoit's wife.
Right. Yeah.
And they had this bodyguard named Nitro. Google it. That's who he reminds me of. This
Okay.
big dude that didn't do nothing but just walked over the ring and just. Now what's funny is Nitro was actually Tyler Mane, who wind up playing Michael Myers in the Rob Zombie remake.
Okay.
So it's funny, but man, if you just Google it and you're like, what? It's like what? And that's what he does. AJ Styles, he just.
But that's what you do with a big guy who can't work yet.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the reports came out this week about several guys who got sent to the performance center because apparently they can't work, and apparently Vince doesn't think they could work, and one of them was Keith Lee, who we put over Keith, rightfully last time we was on.
Yeah.
But you got and a lot of people in the internet wrestling community and everything, was kind of shocked to hear that. I think it goes back to what we were saying before about him not being in a place that totally understands him right now. And this sort of backwards thinking that Vince has, like him just being an 80-year-old dude, he's not on top of things right now. And I don't know if he even knows exactly what he wants out of his top guys right now. But he keeps looking for this. I think he keeps looking for someone to show themselves, to show him something that people just don't show anymore in wrestling.
Yeah, he's looking for that Hulk Hogan.
Yeah,
that's what he's looking for.
I'm sure he would love to see a clone of Hulk Hogan walk right through the doors and down there in Florida right now and show himself to him. But nobody wants to be that. Nobody wants to work like that.
Nah.
So you gotta utilize what you got today. Yeah. And when you look at a person like Keith Lee, for him to I mean, for one, it's not that big a deal because he's still on TV. He hasn't been banished or nothing. But to say like, oh, you need to go to the performance center, like he could go there to work out if he wants.
Yeah.
But he should be teaching most of the people there stuff instead of.
And that's an indictment because I know you've seen a lot of my reviews of Raw, SmackDown, and AEW. And one of the things that I've seen, I'm surprised they're sending those guys down because I've seen many cases where it was either Natalya, Mandy Rose, she's executing a serious move with a smile. I'm like, what the, like you're just smiling while doing the moves. I'm like, huh? Who else?
They don't. It seems like they for the girls they barely have any standards. Like if you were good in the ring as a woman, no, they'll let you cook. But if you're really bad and like Alana or somebody, they give you more chances to be on TV, even if you're bad. If you're a woman, but if you're a guy, you can be good, but if you don't fit a certain type of style, you still get
blacklisted,
blacklisted, and you get played to the side. It's really like it really comes down to whether Vince is feeling you in the moment or not. They talk about 1 week Vince is going to give a certain guy a push, and then the next week he just not feeling them anymore, and then they start this long process where they're down to the main event show, and then they're barely on main event anymore. Then they're just going out. They're back on Raw, but they're jobbing, and pretty soon they get the wish you best on your future endeavors thing, and they're out the door. And people are looking at people like Keith Lee and wondering like, just how is he going to look on AEW or Ricochet? Who. People would love to see more Ricochet, but they're like, well, I guess he's going to do his thing in AEW or something now. So, and that's great. That's great for AEW,
or Impact or NWA.
Or Impact or whatever. Ricochet could go anywhere and kill and get over, but it just don't make sense to me why WWE even tries to do business with these guys when they act like in the end they don't know what to do with them.
Yeah, it's been a trend. I want to say in the last maybe 2 to 5 years that they've been doing that. And
They
unfortunately,
yeah
you
they
starting to see
just
that. Yeah, you starting to see that trickle down to NXT. Like, look at Tommaso Ciampa. Like, he was, main event, and now he's in this like little feud.
yeah he sort of stagnated down there. It's
Yeah,
well, part of it is he, like, I don't know. I guess maybe he doesn't want to do it, or they don't want to do it, or maybe it's both. But he's not leaving NXT anytime soon.
yeah.
Like
It's really weird.
Ciampa's the type of dude, he could shake up some stuff on Raw or SmackDown if you put him on it. But
Yeah,
if you don't want to leave NXT, then what you gonna do?
yeah, because he's a perfect guy that you could put to feud with like Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental title. Like, that's a
Sure.
perfect. You just slide him right in. You get fresh blood for the mid card and
Yeah.
everything. But
Any mid card,
yeah,
definitely you could.
yeah, and it's
The
like,
U.S.
huh?
title. Yeah, imagine him with Bobby Lashley for the U.S. title. Like, imagine him like going wild on and feuding with the Hurt Business. Like, and then they
Yeah,
just
or AJ.
or AJ. Yeah, but just dealing because he's that off kilter type dude.
Yeah,
But see, at the same time, though, we've seen what they do with a guy like that, because that's what they did with Ambrose. They didn't
you know
handle
what?
it right.
Now that you're speaking, the one dude that just came to mind that we haven't seen for a while, Aleister Black.
Yeah, Aleister Black. That's another one people are sort
Like,
of counting down. When is he going to be a free agent?
man, and he's, it's unfortunate, it's speculation that it's something to do with his wife being released and the Twitch whole
Yeah.
thing. And, man, there's just so much, like, we've discussed this, we've touched on it a few times, but man, WWE is just, it has so much stuff that doesn't pertain to wrestling and giving the fans what they want. That's like, they're getting in their own way.
Yeah.
It just don't make sense. Lister Black, he had this awesome entrance in NXT. He gets called up and he's nowhere. Like, he would be a perfect face to go against, Roman Reigns, but the last time we seen him, he was turned heel and was facing Kevin Owens. And now he's just he's literally black. Like, he went into the black. You don't even know where he's at. Where is he?
In the dark.
Yeah, it's like, where did he go? And it's unfortunate because the guys that we're mentioning, they put bad. By bad, I mean just awesome matches on NXT and a few, on the main roster.
They put in great work.
Yeah.
But
and that,
it's hidden.
and that's why, when we talked about last week about, the things that WWE needs to, modify to, prepare itself for what might possibly happen with the AEW Impact, partnership and the other companies. You don't give us an opportunity, us as fans, to invest in these guys. You bring them up for a couple of weeks and they're cool, and then they just start losing, winning. It's like, all right, like, what is this dude gonna do? So it's just, it's very unfortunate. The whole Keith Lee thing, I found shocking and like surprising, because I'm like, this dude doesn't. To me, it doesn't seem like he did anything, wrestled, something that was just off or clunky or anything like that.
He hasn't hurt anyone.
Yeah.
If you put on matches that were disappointing, it's because they were likely booked that way.
Yeah, and I mean, his matches with Strowman, I mean, let's face it, Strowman's been somewhat sloppy in a few matches. And by few, I'm being generous. Like, there was a few matches where he was just kind of sloppy. He didn't sell anything. It was just clunky. It was like Big Show 2.0. And it's just like, and that's where. Yeah, and it's crazy because it's just like, you send Keith Lee down with, you got these other dudes that are just like sloppy, it's a common theme. It's funny because I touched on this on the Pro Wrestling Enforcer podcast with Sean Linden yesterday, that one of the biggest things that's happening just all across wrestling is a lot of these guys are rushing moves. And you've seen that in my reviews. I'm like, man, they're going too fast. It's too clunky. They're not telling a story. They need to just slow it down. Like, we're not going to go anywhere. It's like, you already have virtual fans. They paid to not go anywhere, so they're not going to go anywhere. So
They're
just
literally, they're
they
making
literally,
sure they're sitting right here on this
yeah,
in front of their computer so they can see what's going on. They're
yeah,
there for a reason.
exactly. So man, just don't rush and just tell the story. Just take your time. You know,
Okay, that makes me bring. I want that leads me into something that has happened with AEW now, where good old JR has been sort of public about his criticisms with some of the moves and some of the spots that they're attempting in AEW. And I think like you say, some of the stuff is about how fast guys are working and not selling, not letting things resonate. But he was specific about the one thing where a guy would jump from the ring now, and the guys would just like a group of guys would stand up there and catch him like at a
yeah.
concert or something.
It's like, huh?
That he but some people got I think Brandon Cutler had a tweet
Oh,
about it in particular. So some people got sensitive about it, and there's been some others like one of the guys from FTR said you should be listening to these OGs, to these older guys, but I saw something that they said that there's some real beef going on in the AEW locker room because
oh
of
yeah.
that. What do you think about that potential of what do you think about the whole situation, and where do you think it should go?
I know there's man, it's funny because I talked about this yesterday, but it's what I'm seeing is like and I meant you've seen it in my reviews, with AEW.
Yeah.
Luchasaurus, Jungle Boy, Marco Stunt, a lot of man, it was like a month straight. They were sloppy, going too fast. Private Party, they were good. There was a few spots that they were, kind of fast and everything, and of course that jump over. The Young Bucks, typical before they got that heelless side, they were just doing the same spots, rushing, sloppy. And what you're starting to see is, and I kind of sensed this when they first launched, that what you're going to see like in the next, like after the first year, everybody, hey, I'm AEW, we're doing this. But after a while, the styles that are resonating with fans and that's telling the good story, they're going to rise here. And those that are sloppy and everything, go down here. And the people that are complaining about JR, like Brandon Cutler, when he tweeted that, me and Jonathan Hood were talking about it on Twitter, and I'm like, dude, this is the most condescending, arrogant thing to say. Like you're trying to, and
like
what
you're
made
Brandon Cutler, dude. Like, come on.
And what made it worse was that not only did he say that, but then after he mentioned, it's basically verbatim what, JR mentioned on his podcast. He's like, hopefully in front of 1 million. And I'm like, wait a minute. If you're a wrestler and you're behind something that has strong momentum and you're a part of that, you don't say hopefully 1 million. You're like, no, we're going to be in front of a lot of, fans and stuff like that. And it's not knocking their momentum. It's pretty much saying you're really not a part of that momentum. And it's like you're actually kind of mocking it. Like you're getting mad at JR, but you're kind of mocking your own wrestlers, tweeting that. And I'm just like, this dude.
Well,
and everyone.
To me, it's like to me though, it's like he's saying like, okay, yeah, like we're pulling in the top number on Wednesday. We're pulling in that close to 1 million, but it's not even 1 million, and nobody's really watching AEW because of you.
Yeah.
Nobody's saying, "Oh, I got to see that next Brandon Cutler match." So what credit are you taking? What are you taking credit for, man?
And what's crazy, like I tweeted Hood, and I'm like, yo, like it's the match is a 7-on-7 match. He's the only one out of the 13 participants in that match that tweeted something that stupid. And this dude trying to get work. Yeah, it's like he's trying to get shine, he's trying to get buzz, like, ooh, I'm gonna be It's like you're trying to be snarky. It's like, dude, and like I told Sean Lennon yesterday, I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if AEW doesn't get to 900,000 or 1 million because of that tweet. Like he turned off, man, a lot of people by that tweet because they're like, yo, like Jim Ross been in the industry for over 40 years. He didn't cover Starcades, WrestleManias, Wrestle Kingdoms. Like you ain't barely
been part of shows that got 6-7 million.
Yeah, it's like, bruh, you barely were You were barely on a dark match of an Impact pay-per-view. And you go, like, bruh. And, I wouldn't be surprised if somehow he's punished in that match where he's the one that gets pinned.
Yeah. He takes the pin, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just
that
like.
might happen. That might happen.
Yeah.
He kind of deserves it, man. It's like, I think that's something that, Tony Khan or the elite guys, like, they gotta get those other guys in line, man. They gotta get that locker room in line, I think, and be like, look, we got a chance here to really set ourselves apart in the next year. We can't be worried about stuff like this, and we gotta recognize these guys like JR who we got here. The fact that we got them is meaningful in that.
Yeah.
And we gotta take their advice and take it to heart, man. We can't just be like they're hating on us, because they know way more about the business than we do, and they're making us relevant and respectable in a way that we wouldn't be if they weren't here. So
exactly,
they gotta keep that in mind.
Exactly. And what makes it worse, Kyle, is that Brandon Cutler's title, and it's on his Twitter account, he's AEW's executive producer of digital content.
So he's an executive too.
Because of his buddies, the Young Bucks. And that's something
every wrestler is an executive at AEW, man.
That's something that Jim Cornette, he blasted and everything, but that's something I've seen, that eventually you're going to see that shift of like, okay, this ain't about buddies and stuff like this. This is business. Because, the buzz that they got with Sting returning, then with Shaq, and then now with, Snoop Dogg doing commentary. It's
I'm gonna bring that up in a minute.
Like, this is big time. Like, we ain't got time to be, and what it reflects on Brandon Cutler, he still has that independent wrestling mentality.
Yeah.
Like, bro, this mainstream, this ain't independent.
Yep. And that's another thing I'm gonna bring up right quick that I heard, and I liked hearing from Cornette this past week. He said that in regards to the way that these guys are working, that a lot of it stems from the fact that they've only worked in the indies for the most part. A lot of these guys from AEW, they haven't worked on TV before AEW, and beyond that, they've worked with the same people in the indies. They've continuously worked with their friends in most part. Me and you, we talked before about the old days, the old territory days, where guys, they got hot in one place, then they shipped off to another place and worked with different people who they haven't worked with before. A lot of people have learned about this with Pat Patterson, his story, in the wake of his passing. People talked about his story. Like, he came from Canada, went to Boston for several years of work, then went to San Francisco, and this was at a time when those areas had nothing to do with each other. Those were complete different areas that had complete different wrestlers, that had complete different fans that they performed in front of. So, once he learned something in Boston, he knew that moving to San Francisco meant he had to learn a whole new style. He had to learn whole new ways of working, and he added it on to what he was able to. He added on these styles and everything. He kept maturing, and by the time he was working straight with the WWF or WWF, he was a fully formed guy, and he was the guy. He was the type of guy who they could look at and say, "Okay, you could be our first Intercontinental Champion, and you could do this, do that." And he became a big guy in the industry because of all the knowledge that he had. You can't go up to Brandon Cutler and be like, I guess whatever he does, they say now I guess he does some tweeting or whatever now.
Oh my God!
But you can't go to him and be like, you're gonna be we need you to help us book our matches, because
exactly.
He doesn't have any knowledge to that degree.
Yeah, it's like he hasn't even been to New Japan. And the other thing that kind of like got to me that I was somewhat offended by was, not only am I a wrestling fan and I do this stuff like that, most people know that I do social media consulting. And for me, as a business person, I'm like, yo, you have a title. It's one thing you're trying to be a character, but dude, in your Twitter bio, it says you're AEW's executive director. Now, if Jim Ross said this on his podcast, some people say, oh, he shouldn't have said it. It's his podcast. He can say whatever he wants. Whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, dude, you're an executive director and you're literally quoting one of your colleagues. They're saying, their words and putting it in your tweet in a mocking manner. It's like, you're a director. Like, you're an EV, executive, like, executive directors don't do that, in business.
I love putting that in your Twitter too. That's some really, really like some false stunning on Twitter too. Like,
I'm putting on the chapstick. I mean, you gotta let me know. I knew I wasn't coming in for the wrestling. How you gonna like me? You see me? You don't do a brother like that. Not like that.
Oh man, that's funny.
I know what you was doing, man. I'm sorry, bro.
That's funny.
Let me chill for
it. It's
just, you want me to remove you?
Nah, go ahead.
No, I want to do a little crosstalk. Well, Dedrian's staying anyway, so. But now I want to see if you had anything on this too, because we're going to wrap up our wrestling talk with this. Like Snoop is going to be.
I saw Dedrian post that.
Yeah.
With the boxing, with the Tyson Roy Jones Jr. fight, I did think that Snoop did an admirable job with that one. So when I saw Dedrian posted it, I felt like that type of flair would blend in well with wrestling. So I think that's pretty dope. You know what I'm saying? As long as he's not calling, aunties certain words.
Yeah. Keep it to nephew and then
I know he's going to use, man, they getting cracking now.
But yeah.
The funny thing, though, is that he'll have some leverage on TNT because you could say the S word on TNT now. On the wrestling, you can say bitch.
Yeah.
So he gonna get over with that.
I know it's cable, so but he's a kid watching this time.
But in the 90s,
are we not cursing here? Let me make sure. Are we cursing here or not? So
we cursing.
Oh, you said that's right. I don't want to come over here being belligerent on your ish. But
go
ahead.
Yeah, Dynamite is rated TV 14. So they're not PG.
I know from having PG, but just what PG-13 is trash now. Like you can have all types of stuff going on. Like being a parent and watching PG-13, you're like, damn, this is what PG-13 is right now. Like
it's what rated R used to be back in the day.
It's close to that.
That's what I'm saying. Like back in the 90s, you got something that was 14, and you wouldn't have no S words or B words, and like you say now, a TV 14 is pretty much a TVMA, almost. But the one thing I want to say about Snoop though, before we transition down to that, is that Snoop, there's been reports that WWE is mad. I don't know if they're mad at Snoop or they're mad at AEW, because Snoop has been long associated with WWE. He's in their Hall of Fame. His cousin is a superstar on WWE, Sasha Banks, and like just this Friday they had a show on because she's on the Friday show SmackDown, and they had a graphic on that said cousin of Snoop Dogg. So I'm like,
that's messed up. I hope she listen. I don't need to follow wrestling as much as I used to, and I knew Sasha, but look, I know it's either she's related to Snoop or The Rock. I forget which one's related to The Rock. I know The Rock also has a cousin or sister somewhere around here too.
He got a bunch of
All right, so the thing was, I know his lineage from his father and his grandfather, or whatever.
Right.
But for me not being a wrestling person now, I was growing up. For them to say for Sasha Banks, as long as she's been rocking, that she's the cousin of Snoop, I think she's done enough independently now to not say she's the cousin of Snoop Dogg. I mean, she's been around for what, about 5-6 years at least?
That's sad because you're not a wrestling fan, and you spotted this wrestling fan. Jesus, man, this company, man, my goodness, man.
I like that Southern boy charm. That Because I want to bring up, Vince may not be able to curse in the 90s, but they could sure use a stereotype to the nth degree, could they not?
Yeah.
I was watching, well, actually, I didn't watch it, I recorded it, but it was a preview of an episode of Pawn Stars. And Chumley's on there talking about a toy of Kamala. And he's like, man, this is like the rare unicorn, right? Because you got to think, growing up, you ain't seen no Kamala toys. You know what I'm saying? Like growing up.
I had it. I had the action figure.
I bet you did that. But still, just again, it's, with that, again, I can't knock on that because, a lot of them don't necessarily care for people of this hue. So just to pick on wrestling would be unfair and be biased, but still, that's who you're rocking with.
But the only thing for me is that when you don't let the guys win or you don't let them be strong, like that, we mentioned it before you came on, like there was an event, a main event this weekend for a promotion called Impact. And as you said, it was a main event between two brothers. One had the champion, one was going at him, and we said it was like the third time.
Yeah,
that there's been a championship main event with two brothers in it on a major company. And it's like,
this isn't even WWE. You're just talking about all major wrestling companies.
Yeah.
In the third time?
Yeah, one time it happened with The Rock and Booker T on WWE. The other two times it happened on this company Impact. So it's like that's the type of stuff that that when you look at wrestling, it's hard to be a black wrestling fan when you think of stuff like that.
I mean, when you think about in combat sports, how they have no problem letting us batter each other for
right. Yeah.
There's one sport where there's a script basically, or the decision has been made. They will be like, no. We can only have the great white hype when it comes to this situation. There will be no situation where the person walking out of this 100% either or will be a person of color. I mean, but also I guess that's their fan base. They're like, hey, guys, that 13% is not strong enough for us.
Yeah, that's WWE's thing.
I think it's very much the thinking with WWE. I think they haven't had too many guys who they felt like could be
owned it
because
let me jump in real quick. So for me, like I know, and I'm blanking out now, and it's like, what's the 3-man team with the brother that won like a year and a half ago?
New Day. I was about to bring New Day and Kofi Kingston.
But see, for me, like, and I hate to say this because I don't want to knock that brother, but like, if you can go back to the type of wrestlers that I like, and that's not to say he may not partake, right? But I like my wrestlers to have, just a little bit of roids up in them. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
I was never a person that was big on the rocker on Shawn. What was Shawn Michaels?
Shawn Michaels, yeah.
Like when Shawn Michaels was champ, I was like, what is listen? I'm gonna go even worse than that. I was like, I don't like it because we know in real life this is not real. You throw that little whirly twirl kick, someone's catching that and whooping your ass, especially if he's 6'5" or whatever. But I'll even go further with that. I wasn't a what's the name Hart fan, and like Bret Hart, and like when they was the Hart Foundation, and it was him and the Anvil, that was cool. And I guess the same thing applies to Shawn Michaels. When you break up those tag teams and then want to push a tag team person all the way to the top, I'm not saying you can't, but when it's some of them itty bitty in Memphis, and it's like, dude, you know damn well if he get in there with Diesel, Shuddy shouldn't be able to do nothing with him, basically. Or basically, you can't even have that match because you have this welterweight, basically, in wrestling terms, as your champion. So, like, when the New Day cat, Kofi was the champion, I was happy that a brother had did it, but it didn't feel genuine or thorough because, one, he was a tag team person doing it. Two, you knew he wasn't going to go up with Brock Lesnar. You know what I'm saying? Like, they wasn't like, but even though
he had to be the dude who was smaller than him, actually.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Daniel Bryan.
The 1, 2, 3 kid back out, you know what I'm saying? X-Pac will jump out on us. Like, so for like when you do that, it lessens, and I'm not saying that as a company that entertains, you should do things that kind of throws it off because you don't want to just be same because it's entertainment. But also it lessens it because we kind of know the direction won't reach the zenith. Like you knew Kofi wouldn't reach the zenith because of one, his stature, two, being a tag team person. And this is me looking in the outside, you know what I'm saying? Also being black. So it was a nice carrot, but it wasn't something where you felt like the winds of change were actually taking effect. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's the thing in this day and age with you. I don't want to say I would expect more, but I mean, hey, and you both of y'all know how hard I've been reeling on the slurs. I was just on Sean and Maya today, and he opened up with so the slurs Indian, because every time I've been on that show, I've been like the Indian baseball team and the Cleveland baseball team. I apologize, the Cleveland baseball team, and how I felt about that in sports when it comes to I won't say black in that sense, but stereotypes and basically being racist. And when you still look at like it's a part of me, and I can't sit here and be like, because I'm not as interested in wrestling today, it's due just because of race. It's more due to time that I have that I'm not into it like I used to necessarily be in it. But I always go back, and the Kamala thing always as a kid haunted me because one, the character came off as stupid. All right, sitting there slapping his belly. I hope you can hear it. Right, lips.
And he was always dependent on his carrier or handler or whatever.
With the crazy Kango joint. All right, with the mask on, the crazy Kango joint where I had one of those. All right, so with the mask on, and then it always makes me throw back to like, we can't. This is how racist it got. We can't even allow him to jump off the tight ropes. This it worked like, and it just like even like at a point because I used to suspend reason when you enjoy something, and I used to enjoy wrestling. I was a Saturday Night Live. Like when I used to turn on the Saturday Night Live guy wasn't coming on, it was the main event coming on. Mm-hmm. Oh, and I love Saturday Night Live, but it was delicious. All right, like me and my brother was locked in. I would look on my paper TV guide that came in the Sunday station to find out when the spotlight was coming on. All the shows. I just tried to find when all the shows was coming on the different stations or whatever. I was a huge wrestling person, but a part of me still felt like I don't know if they really rocking with us. All right, because it just. The Negroes were stereotypical. You had like Coco Beware. Like even listen, I'm telling you, like because I came back during the Stone Cold Steve Austin Rock Triple H era. But I'm gonna tell you when I started fading out. I started fading out when Two Cold Scorpio was wrestling tag team with that white boy. I forget what his name was. He was like
it's WWE or WCW.
This is WCW. No. This is WCW, right?
Buff Bagwell.
Yeah, it was. I think it was bad one. So, and it, like, the whole thing. I'm into this. Doom, doom, doom. Too cold. Doom, doom, doom. Like it's just like if I pull out if I'm in a commercial with a drumstick, I just got to start dancing. I just can't enjoy the fact that I'm eating protein. So those are the things that it just kind of ate at me, even as a child watching this. Where I'm just kind of like, why we gotta always be doing it? Like even I feel like. It's funny you have commercials now. I'm sorry, Raquel. You have commercials now where you have it's like one or two where a lady is drinking like a hard seltzer, and the seltzer water is like, "Ooh, this is tasty." Taste buds like, "This is tasty. It's time to dance." And I'm like, "What?" All right, that's it. That's all I have to say.
Or the Mary commercial with she ate
with Jerry Rice joint, and like you said, the Mary was that
Burger King.
Burger King. Yeah. And it's just, even though they knew they went too far with that one, but it's funny they don't know they're going far. But it's just like every time. Listen, I've been around Kyle and Dedrian plenty of times in my life, and guess what? I've never seen them do automatically when they're happy. Start dancing. All right, like I remember Kyle was like, "Oh yeah," like it just so. So good. That's all I want to say. When you say the chicken sandwich, listen, I'm happy they cut Popeye's cut. Pay attention with Popeyes. They never used the chicken lady for the sandwich, right? They never used that.
They haven't. You're right.
Social media because that's what blew it up. So when they started showing the social media clips, and they got the one where the grandpa's in the front seat and the person in the back driver's side passenger is filming him, and he eats it. He goes. And he has like a little bit right here. They finally cut because I was like, why y'all got my man? He got the stuff all up in his jaw right there. I'm like, there y'all go, right? They finally edited and cut that part out. But you know how we get a chicken sandwich. Whoa! And again, it's just it's too much for me at times, and maybe I'm just being too much myself.
I like the one though where the fake Tyrese brother sings. I got Popeyes.
I hate that. I hate that one. I hate it. I'm like, oh my god.
I can't front. I have sung like that before when I've had Popeyes.
I don't know, not Popeyes. I've definitely sung off a tasty bite or two, but not Popeyes. I've had Popeyes in a minute, surprisingly.
What makes you sing? Without abandon?
I don't expect to be as tasty as, and you know what? When I say tasty, usually it's layered depth to the taste. So it's like, damn, I thought this was gonna be good, but damn, you know what I'm saying? Like those are the things that kind of get me to where I may put a little bit of hum on it. But like usually, I'm not singing. I'm not James Brown into my food. Like it's just.
Being like the crackhead from Dave Chappelle.
Dude, stop.
Right, do the robot.
It's not my jig.
But I was gonna say before we there's a couple plays I could win off of the what we just talked about. But I saw Too Cold. I watched the match with Too Cold Scorpio. Which I'm so glad you brought him up. I over the weekend because sometimes I watch those old Saturday nights.
He jumped off. He did the backflip off the top rope.
He backflipped off the dude was on the floor. He backflipped off the ring, and like he basically put his nuts on his chest.
No, yeah. Like. Whoa! Wouldn't that make your scrotum hurt though? If you backflip and land on the sternum, which
he didn't do it. He didn't. Like he sort of caught him in the process.
Okay, he caught the sack. He caught the sack. Is what
he caught his thighs. He caught the thick thighs.
I caught you. Okay.
Yeah. Scorpio this was right when he premiered at WCW 2, and it's enough at the same time Ron Simmons was the champion. So you had a black champion, and you had this other dude coming out dancing and doing all this stuff, and Jim Ross was getting them over. Like they was like, oh, he's the most electrifying athlete in WCW.
Yeah, he was an innovator. He was one of the first to do a moonsault. So,
but again, that was another situation where Vince saw him as like, oh, we're gonna make you a pimp, Flash Funk. We're gonna make it, and that's it. And then that was his career.
Hey, what's funny, Ken, that you mentioned about Shawn Michaels is he actually got beat up by a bunch of sailors. And Davey Boy Smith had to help him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he couldn't fight for real in this
situation.
Whoa, question. Who the F thought he could fight for real? Like, listen, dude, I watched, first of all, the Rockers were some of the trashiest trash that ever came to tag team wrestling. Dude that was his teammate that looked like he was in REL Speedwagon. And you knew who was going solo. That was like Wham, basically. You knew George Michael. This Wham was before me. But listen, when I got older and realized who Wham was, I was like, oh, you can see who was going solo. You knew Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. It was homely as hell. It was like there were always tag teams that had like these precarious things. Like in WCW, how you said the group that came out to Freebird. And I forgot what their name was or whatever. But listen, they were surly.
They were the Freebirds, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But they were surly, so you was like, cool, I'm with this or whatever. But the Rockers, it was like, what in the world is this? Oh, get this, man. It's like, so I always was like, Shawn Michaels was so. Listen, the fact that how many times of our lives have great wrestlers had a kick move as their signature move, let alone a spin? Listen, I don't know how many of y'all have actually fought someone. Do you know in a real fight how dangerous a spin kick is when you take your head spin totally away from the person that you're assaulting at that moment? So it was always like, dude, get this pretty boy up out of here, man.
I would love to.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, I would hope that, because apparently a bunch of dudes in the bar in Syracuse jumped him. So I would love to have thought that his first thought was the super kick. Like he had about six sailors. He had about 6 sailors around. He was like, okay, I'm a super kick my way out of this.
All 6 of these.
So to give you a backstory, Ken. So what happened was normally him, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, and Davey Boy, they would go out. But that time, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall weren't there because they were always his backup. You know, who the hell's going to test, you know, 2 6 foot, you know, Kevin Nash 7 foot, 300 pounds, Scott Hall, you know, 6'7", 260. Like, who the hell going to?
Which one is Razor Ramon?
Scott Hall.
Scott Hall.
Okay, because
he's about 6. He about 6'4". So,
yeah, so he's stocky. Okay. He could both of them can defend themselves. So, you know, it's funny when you listen to Nash describe. He's like, yeah, you know, we told Sean, what the hell are you fighting without us for? Like, we're always backing you up and protecting you.
He thought it was legit. Shorty thought it was.
He believed his own headlines. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right.
You can't do that. You can't do that.
But a lot of people.
Let's move over though, man, because I know there's. Well, first, but one more thing I want you to do. Shout out your post you did on 89, because that was that goes back to what Ken was talking about too, about like watching on Saturday night's main event and everything and anticipating those shows back then. Like Dedrian, you did a great job. Like
thank you.
Really cataloging that whole year, 1989, and making, you know, I knew it was an important year, but you really drive it home how important a year that was in the industry.
Yeah, it was. You know, it took me a month to do it, but what led behind it was I was watching a few NWA matches on YouTube. I was like, man, I should do 89. And at that time, I was 7 years old, and it's funny because the same day that the Jordan shot happened, I was celebrating my birthday, and Ken, you guys probably remember Chuck E. Cheese. Was it Chuck E. Cheese or Showbiz Pizza? There you go.
Showbiz Pizza.
Yeah. We wasn't doing rats back then, Dedrian. We were eating loud rats.
Yeah. So I went to the one by Kedzie and like 59th or something.
I know. Listen, when you said you went to one, I was like, it's the one out there out west, about 50 something or 60 something. I knew where you went. Yes. Facing west. The front door was facing west. All right.
Yes. So we go there, and somehow, you know, I went into the ball place and stuff like that, and, you know, somehow this kid thought his shoes were my shoes, so he took my shoes, so I get out, and I ain't got no shoes. So we spent like 30 minutes looking for my shoes, and the mother of the kid comes like, look, my son, sorry, he thought this was his shoes, gave it back to me. But that same day was the day that Jordan hit the shot against the Cavaliers, and then right after that is when Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat fought for the NWA title. So
and then
that was one day.
I saw that.
Wasn't that the USC Pavilion too?
No, that was Chi-Town Rumble in February, but this was in Nashville, Tennessee. So all that happened in one day. The Jordan shot and Ricky Steamboat.
Is this the one when they had like 3 matches in one event? Because I feel like
that was the second match. That was the second match that they had.
I know I was at my uncle and aunt's crib, and there was some WCW event on, and those fools wrestled like 3 times in the one event.
Yeah.
It was like, what is this about? All right, why are they like, this is tiring to say the least.
Yeah.
I mean,
they used to pride themselves on going at least 60 minutes.
Yeah. And that year, what was actually cool about that year also, that was actually the debut of, you know, Tiny Lister as Zeus. You know, so that was the whole year, the no holds barred thing.
WCW was his WWF at the time.
He was in WWF.
Yeah, he was in WWF.
Me and my buddy went to see No Holds Bars, Hulk Hogan's wrestling debut, Hulk Hogan's starring wrestling debut outside of Rocky against Tiny Lister as Zeus, which then they brought him into the WWF, and then that day we stuck in to see See No Evil, Hear No Evil, Richard Pryor, and G Wild. We were stuck in Hyde Park Theater. We stuck straight in to see that one after that one. But yeah, listen, we had to go see No Holds Bars, baby.
Yeah,
that was serious business.
It's a cult classic. So yeah, you know, it just, you know, it's more nostalgic.
Smell dookie. What is that I smell?
And you know what also led to it, me doing the article, was just, you know, what's happening now in wrestling, you know, with AEW, Impact, and just like pretty much this Game of Thrones Avengers type storyline that's happening with AEW and Impact and New Japan and NWA, where they're forming this, alliance. So I'm like, man, you know what? This is reminiscent of what really was happening in '89 with just this strong competition, where you turn on Saturday Night Main Event, you got Hogan and Macho Man. Then you turn on, Clash of the Champions. You got Ric Flair, Sting, the Road Warriors, and one company, and it's like, dude,
and you had them.
These were deep.
You had them putting on Clash of the Champions on the same night as WrestleMania. So
yeah, so I mean, I went through that, and it was fun doing it.
I didn't know that. That makes. I think I kind of remember why are you wasting that money when you can get all of them on your day, trying to take somebody on their day. That is bad business right there.
It was that's how it was back then.
Like you said, some of that is that carried on into the Monday Night Wars in the '90s, where you had Raw and Nitro, and now they got a little bit of that going on with Wednesday,
AEW and all that.
AEW and NXT, the WWE. So that's one of the
guys. When does Vince buy AEW? Since
I don't know. It may be the other way around, man.
Yeah,
the other way around.
Yeah. Wait. They got that type of long bread.
Okay.
Well, the Khans who own the father owns Jaguars. So his son is running AEW. So they got the long bread.
So his father owned Jaguar. So when we say own Jaguar, because is Jaguar still under the same automobile brand?
No, the Jaguars, Jacksonville Jaguars.
Jacksonville Jaguars.
No, you said Jaguar. Listen, I always thought excellent, fine things. You got to say the
yeah.
Nobody say like, man, they on the Jaguars. They on the Jaguars. You'll be like the football team.
But actually, his dad, Tony Khan. Shad Khan, he actually created the replaceable bumper on the automobiles that, when you fall off. So he created that. So he's a billionaire because of that. So they own a football team, the Jaguars, and he's actually valued, I think, 4 to 5 times more than Vince.
They got money. They got, the important thing is that they're on TV. So they're on TNT. Yeah. And as long as they got that relationship going, see, we could go on about this for hours. We won't, but Vince is really sort of losing it at this point.
The creativity.
Every empire does.
Yeah, and they're going to have to make some tough decisions going forward. And once he eventually does pass, I mean, I don't know if the same connection to the business is going to be there with his kids that it was with him. So I could see a future in the next 10 years or so where if there's some sort of conglomerate that occurs, it'll be from the AEW sort of taking over.
Yeah.
Is AEW, so what? Is AEW that type of quality?
Yeah.
They're good. It's not there, but they're
dedicated. I see your social media posts. You're dedicated to AEW.
But they're
it's not what we saw in the 90s. It's not what we saw in
yeah. But no, their quality, I mean, they're recapturing so to break it down, like in the 90s.
WCW.
Yeah. So like in the Monday Night War, Raw, WCW, and WWF were pretty much averaging like 10 million viewers on Monday nights. They were beating Monday Night Football. And what happened was when WWF bought WWF, it went from 10 million to 2-3 million viewers. So a lot of those fans just left. So AEW is just trying to recapture those lapsed fans that haven't watched it in a while. So
that was 20 years ago. I mean, it was a different era.
Yeah,
it was a different era. Back, those fans from 20 years ago, like, oh, good. This reminds me of the good old days.
Right? They bringing Sting back now, and it's like it brings back like 50,000 viewers or something. Like the viewing habits are different now. Kids aren't watching wrestling; they're on Twitch all day and stuff. So it's like they're not about to be watching 3-hour wrestling shows anymore. It's a whole different thing. But what AEW does have is time. The fact that they, as a company, they just got on last year. So it's like, they got time ahead of it. But anyway, we got Sean in too, man. We're going to bring in bring it to some good old sports that we don't know the
outcome.
Yeah, we don't know the outcome. Dedrian, that's the wrestling talk me and Dedrian do. We do, and thank you, Ken, for entertaining us with that too.
Yes,
as well.
Hey,
So.
I do look good.
But Monday night, we'll do more Monday Night Wars going into 2021, and see at that crazy industry keeps unfolding. But yeah, let's just get into some regular round the way stuff right now. And no, I didn't come on last night, but let's start off with the Bears, man. They win pretty decisively. Mitch he saves himself the embarrassment in being compared to Deshaun Watson.
Came for that last night.
For one day, he spared some embarrassment. I mean, what do y'all take from the whole thing? It's like, we know the Bears ain't gonna fire nobody in the moment. We know nobody's losing their job, and they're still they're still in the range of the playoffs. Realistically, we know that their chances aren't great, but they're still realistically in it. So, I mean, what do y'all take from what happened yesterday and what it means for the rest of the season going forward?
Go ahead, Sean.
Man, first off, what's up, fellas? How's it going?
What's up, Sean?
Doing good, staying safe. It's been tough seeing the Bears sort of see the full arc of the last couple of years. It seemed like this week's game against Houston was like the culminating point to that, right? Like the narrative of most fans is basically just been, they botched the whole draft pick scenario. They brought in Trubisky, then they doubled down with, with coaching and, front office decisions to not, surround him with the parts needed to really live up to his fullest potential. Like we already know they overreached and, they basically they wet the bed on that whole deal. But I mean, it was good to see Trubisky have some success. Ultimately, I think what the victory will end up being is just a confirmation of how bad they botched things, right? Like Nagy proved that he could, go to a run-heavy offense and scale the offense and the play calling to make Trubisky, see half the field and hit his checkdowns and all of that. And they had success doing it. Stuff that we've been clamoring for over 2 years now. Run the ball, simplify the game plan. So at the end of the day, I just think it is, for Trubisky, it was good to see him have some success, and he'll probably go on after next year to another team like the 49ers, do a power O offense and have a great deal of success. For Nagy, like I said, it's just confirmation that, his stubbornness and just being unwilling to simplify the playbook to his own fault. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I wouldn't be shocked if they made at least one significant change, whether that's Pace or Nagy this offseason.
But you talk about the possibility of Mitchell going on somewhere and having greater success. I think the same could be said for Nagy. I think. Look.
How the man Nagy got here?
Look, I'm not saying that he's gonna be any of these people, but Ken, you've seen it enough.
You better not bring up Belichick. I know you better not bring up Belichick now. I know damn well you better not bring up what's his name out there with the Seattle
Carroll.
You better not bring up near one of them. Near one.
I'm not saying that he's gonna be get to any of their success, but in much of the way that he got hired early, probably earlier than he should have, he had to learn how to be a coach. Unfortunately, as Bears fan, we had to watch him learn how to be a coach. So I don't see, unless he goes to a franchise that is completely bad, like the Lions or something, where he's not going to have at least a chance to be even better as a coach than he was.
All right, so one, I'm saying this on Sean and Maya today because Sean has been a Mitchell fan, and I can see you slipping back into that. And I'll even say this: I don't have when I look at the quarterback situation, I'm not like, you better get Mitch out of here because you don't have a quarterback next year. So if he's the stopgap, I'm not saying that I would be upset. But the point that he was making is that basically keep everything the same. And now that Bill Lazor is calling the plays, let's keep it. And I'm like, wait, first of all, as fans, we should demand more. And someone has to die. And I mean this figuratively, it's falling on their sword, and they won't be falling on it, they'll be pushed on it. But someone has to go. And if we're not going to get rid of Pace and Nagy, at least Nagy has to go. Now, me, I was the person that on national radio had opined of loving Matt Nagy. And guess what? I said this about DeMars. Guess what? He was wrong. All right? Like, I was wrong. Listen, Matt Nagy will be a coordinator if that's his next move. No one in their right mind is giving him a head coaching position. I know there are a lot of positions open right now with 4 teams needing GMs and head coaches, and we don't even know who may need a coach after the end of the season or Black Monday. But still, if your first thing is to hire him, I look at him, to me, as being, you know who I think he is? And I wonder when this guy was going to get another chance. And I don't know if he'll get another chance to get hired. To me, he's Raheem Morris, right? And I'm happy for a little bit of the success Raheem Morris has had with the Atlanta Falcons compared to his times when he was sitting there with Tampa Bay. But he hasn't succeeded enough for me. I'll even say this. I have more faith in Mitchell Trubisky being straight right now. And I'm a Matt Nagy guy. Matt Nagy has shown me I was wrong. Listen, he can't call plays. So even if we go back and look at Bill Belichick in Cleveland, we knew that defense was kind of coming along at his strength. Now, when it comes to being a CEO, where the head coach is, now he hadn't mastered that. And you could say the same with Pete Carroll. It's funny, both of them being defensive guys. But still, when you look at it, you can see from the Legion of Boom, and you can say, well, that was Dan Quinn, former head coach of the Falcons, but you still saw the side of the ball that they were experts on exceed during their tenure as a head coach. We've never seen that in Matt Nagy's era. So until I start to see that, the crazy part is this, it's the play call. Like, he can't call plays. And it's like, at first, we use Mitch as an excuse. I'm not saying Mitch isn't a hindrance, but clearly it wasn't all Mitch. It's this dude does not know rhythm, and he doesn't know his personnel, and he refuses to accentuate those two things.
I'll say 2 things here. I agree with you completely about the fact he's not going to get a job in 2021 unless it's a coordinator job. But I'm saying I think we've seen this enough in the NFL where you can suck in your first head coaching experience. You can stay low and build as a coordinator for a couple of years, and you show yourself. Like I say, you have to show some evolution in your play calling, your ability to manage at least one side of the ball, one phase of the ball. If he can get an offense. If he could get on the offense in a year or two and make it a top 10 offense, he'll get a job again. But I'm just saying, whether you talk about his ability as a CEO or his ability to let certain things go that he couldn't within the first 2 years, I do think he stands a chance. I'm not saying he's going to, like I said, I'm not saying he's going to be an all-time great or even a decent coach. He'll probably be a journeyman coach, but he has a chance to make something of himself outside of Chicago. He's done here. He's got a chance, though, to make something outside of Chicago. But the funny thing about Sunday, when you talk about calling plays and making adjustments or making use of pacing and stuff like that, it's funny that the Bears had to start out with a play that they didn't have in 32 years, which is an 80-yard run from Montgomery. Like, they had to start out with a perfect play like that in order to really get themselves going in a way that they needed to in the game. Like, you can imagine if that's just a 6-yard run for Montgomery, how does Lazor call the rest of that drive? Do they get the score that they need? Do they get the forward momentum that they need early on to establish themselves and really start beating Houston down? That's a lot of hypotheticals there, but it's interesting though to me that the fact that we had to see that from Montgomery, and in thinking about Montgomery in particular, Ken, do you think what he did on Sunday is enough for Lazor and for Nagy to just go and say, look, you got it, man, you got the juice, going forward.
I mean, first of all, if your boss said that this is the guy, it should. It goes to show you Nagy, though, and his play call. But also, I'll say this, and I'm not a fan of him, but it also shows you Mitch. And when you have someone who's a rushing threat, and regardless of they may not have a dedicated spy on Mitch, but they're cognizant of watching the backfield for Mitch, how it opens up more lanes for David Montgomery. Sometimes, and I know that this offensive line is built better now that they've had more time, but sometimes, let's be honest, David Montgomery doesn't hit the right hole and is too shifty, is trying to do too much shifty in the backfield rather than hit your cut and go. That's what you see Cordero Patterson do, and Cordero Patterson won't even do it at the right hole because he likes to bounce it out. He's a kick return guy. He wants to get that sideline and go and use that angle to try to get it upfield. But when it comes to what you should do with David Montgomery, hell yeah, you should give him the ball. Now, I'll say this. I still don't know if this means to me that I'm like, man, y'all straight. That's all you need is David Montgomery. I would like for them to bring in a guy that was like either like a great vet at one point and now he's on the back end of his career, because I don't think David Montgomery is a 25, and I know nobody's giving anybody 25 carries, but you need to get really 35 carries, so 30 to 35 carries out of your backfield if you're a winning team. You know what I'm saying? Like the greatest show on turf, and that was the fall of the greatest show on turf. They scored too damn fast, and you left your defense out there too much. You need to take time off of the clock. He's shown us some of the things to let us know he's very dependable. We know he's tough as nails. Like if you say anything about that, you can never say that David Montgomery isn't tough, but I still don't know if the value was there to move up and say that he's a bell cow. And I mean, I think there's very few running backs in the NFL where you can be like, I think there's maybe 6 to 7 where you can be like, that's our guy, and then we have his backup. You know what I'm saying? And I think David Montgomery is more of a tandem backfield guy. And sometimes with the Bears, because they want someone to succeed, they want to apply competition to that person, where in essence, when it comes to the running game, you need two capable. Dog, look at Cleveland. I just saw a stat right here on national television showing that Nick Chubb is in his first, I think it's 24 games, is the highest average per run, per average guy at 5.4. Coming behind him is Jim Brown, Adrian Peterson, and the late great Gale Sayers, right? And look at that. They got Nick Chubb and they have Kareem Hunt. We all know that's why Baker Mayfield has been playing well the last three. Think about it. Baker Mayfield's been playing well as long as Nick Chubb's been back, right? Think about that. With when you look at the fact that ODBJ went down, so he wasn't forcing passes to OBJ, and Nick Chubb is back, and it's like, dog, we about to use the Kirk Cousins in the Minnesota joint, all right, with Stefanski. We're going to sit here and run and play action your ass, but we're not going to let this quarterback sit here and try to dictate everything because that's not in his tool house. All right, so again, getting back to your question as far as David Montgomery, I like having David Montgomery in my running back room. I want somebody else alongside of him. Like, there's no need unless you have Ezekiel, and I'm not saying this is Ezekiel Elliott. I'm going back to Ezekiel Elliott from a few years ago, or Todd Gurley, or what Le'Veon Bell was. Now, mind you, everybody that I said is not the same guy now, putting an importance on why you need more running backs than one.
Definitely. I love a change of pace guy for the Bears. They tried it last year with Davis, who surprisingly went on and did better with Carolina than he did.
Christian McCaffrey? Shorty over there. Right. So think about the type of stuff, how that offense is built up, right? No, they're not running him the same as Christian McCaffrey. But they didn't throw out the playbook. He's still getting pass plays and stuff where the Bears didn't give him. Like, we thought, like, man, David Montgomery is really snapping. They let Davis go. When there was no reason for them to let Mike Davis go last year. Even with a healthy Tariq Cohen. Tariq Cohen's not an in-the-tackles guy. He's a guy you're supposed to be moving around. But I'll tell you this, and I put it on Ryan Pace. I also go to Matt Nagy and not wanting to try. Matt Nagy's out here like a young man, and I mean this in a disrespectful manner because of his age. He's like a young man in his 20s trying to prove himself. I remember, what I'm saying. I know all of y'all know this in parts of your life. You remember when you was like 19 or 20, and your dad would tell you something, you'd be like, "Yeah, I hear you, but I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna show you wrong." And then when you got to be around 23, you was like, man, that motherfucker was right about all that stuff. I should have just been listening, right? Because you were trying to show listen, I'm growing, I'm doing this. And you didn't just realize it. I'm just giving you this game, right? I'm just telling you life doesn't change as much as you think, because when we're going through it, it's totally different, right? When we're going through it. You know what I'm saying? And that, to me, is Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy's going through it, so it's totally different from when it's simple. It's football, right? If you don't believe in your quarterback, get the ball out of his hands and run the ball. Set up easy plays. You know, like and when the worst part is when you see someone come in and do your job or your specialty much better than you with this personnel. Like it'd be different if Bill Lazor, and the first game Lazor called, I was like, People was like, I didn't see no difference. I saw a difference. All right. It was like, because the pace, but the personnel dictated the play call. Like that's so important. Like when you look at Bill Belichick, since you want to put Matt Nagy on the Bill Belichick,
he's the next Belichick,
He's next Belichick. But when you look at Belichick, like, man, we gonna run a old school wishbone offense on your ass. This is the best we can do with Cam, right? That's what I did. Dude, so look, I got the same weapons that Brady didn't win with last year. I got to run. Everybody know Cam should not be rushing with that bum foot. Right? Like Cam is rushing like old Carolina days because he's playing for Belichick and he's trying to hold on to that job. All he's doing is, you know what? I know my personnel, and this is the best way we have to win. Matt Nagy has not wanted to try that his whole tenure here with the Bears.
And to that degree, look, I mean, we could look back. Hindsight's 2020, but it looked. I remember at the beginning of the season, me and you, King, we was kind of the only two in the group who was like, you know, he's starting Mitch, because everybody was like, don't start Mitch for week one. We was like, yeah, he started Mitch for week one, but he's gonna bring in Foles eventually. You know, within a couple of weeks, he's gonna bring in Foles. That's what he does. By week 3, he brings in Foles to get the miracle win in Atlanta, but not much else after that. Like, hindsight being 2020, I know some people. I don't know if it really even matters anymore.
We all thought it was going to be 2 more games Mitch would have had, and it was. It's. I don't even think it's hindsight. If Nick Foles would have done well, we would have been like, yeah, it's cool. But it was too early for what the offense had been doing, especially. And this is where it's hindsight. We found out that it was the same offense quarter by quarter afterwards, right? With Nick Foles, a guy that was a pocket guy that was supposed to be able to sit here and, to a certain degree, cut you up with these weapons, these good weapons that they have. They don't have great weapons. But even when he took him out in Atlanta, we was kind of like, we all was sick of Mitch, but Mitch had about a game and a half before he deserved that during this season, to me. And, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to harp on, because I think this is another thing too. We spent too much time talking about what's happening with this team when this team was set up for failure. This team had when this team looked like, look, this is I go to Dedrian with this, because we had a debate 7 or 8 weeks ago about the Bears making the playoffs, and me and Kyle, we were saying that they was listen, Dedrian, they still can make the playoffs, and we were saying but the point, because we weren't debating that we thought they were a playoff worthy team. In that debate, we said they're going to get their ass kicked. This team isn't really a good team, but they had won so many games, and still to this date, which I hope they don't make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. But the reason that I'm bringing this up is we're debating a bad team that has good parts. That's what we're debating. Like, well, you did this. You know what? The outcome would have still been negative at the end, because all of us know they're not a contending team whatsoever. It's not even like a glimmer of, if this fell into this and this happened. They would, at some point, if they made the playoffs, and if they lucked at being the first round, and I said in that debate, they're going to lose in the first round, a real team would beat them. So sometimes, and this is how they get over on us, we waste too much time talking about, man, if they would have done this. So when we look at what did they put in the basket? All right, and with all the ingredients in the basket, can I make a meal with that shit?
Yeah.
No, I got like an entree and maybe like part of my dessert, right? And that entree ain't even got all the ingredients for that bad boy. And that's the thing where when people are starting to be like, man, what if they score 30 points the next 3 games? And it's like, whoa, see, now that you're going, this is how they get you.
Yep.
They lost 6 games in a row, all right? Unprecedented, right? You don't let them off the hook. They were national news. Everyone should go when it comes to Ted Phillips, Ryan Pace, Matt Nagy. I'll settle for 1, but I should get 2 or 3. You know what I'm saying? And that's
Yeah.
the mindset that I think we have to keep putting on this team, because they'll try to play us if we try to act like last year. Because I remember me and D being on the score, and this is the Dallas game, right? And it's like, and I said it on there,
Yeah.
if they win, don't act like this is a 500 team, because it wasn't. And like that's the same with this team this year. Even if they would have had a winning record, the point that I was trying to make is they're not a good team. And if until you make some type of changes, you're going to run into the same situation. But actually, they run into worse. They're not even a fake winner. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, dude, they get 10 wins, but they're not even like the old Chargers when Phillip Rivers was in his heyday. You know what I'm saying? Where, they're going to get enough wins, but they're going to end up falling on their face. They're not even that. They're bad to the point where they can't even get enough wins to qualify, and they have this burgeoning budget when you look at how much money they put in this team.
Yeah, you got it, Ken. Like, this is institutional what the issues are, and it goes as high as Phillips, and you got to hope that somehow. I'm kind of hoping that he does that backdoor thing where he's like, okay, I'm out of here. And it makes it easier on everybody else to be like, yeah, we got the opening now. Let's make these moves, and we'll see though how it goes. But let's move on quick to basketball, man. Sean, before we move to basketball and the Bulls, you're at Cleveland, man. We got Cleveland on now. What's the town been like? The land been like responding to those Browns, man?
Believe it or not, man, it's been a lot more subdued than I expected. And y'all followed them last year, my first winter in Cleveland. And, there was a lot of hype around the team. Maybe it was because of the Odell Beckham acquisition and him coming in as sort of the new shiny toy. But to Ken's point, they've been very much a true to their identity team this year since Odell's injury. Run heavy, defense, and I think there's been, from the fandom at least, there's been a lot of tempered expectations. We had hit with some nasty weather in Cleveland a lot earlier this winter than last year, and it kind of forced them to win ugly. And I think that with that, there's really just been, this 1 week at a time mentality, which of all years, especially this year with the COVID implications and just, you never know week to week what you're going to get with player availability. I think that, I think that they've got the right sort of temperament this year and the right, at least from the fan following, the right expectations. They're parked in the right place. So, exciting, man. I'm right here, so at least I'll have somebody to watch the playoffs. But they're taking it week by week.
Yeah, you got to. I guess you've been there long enough where you can hop on the Browns. As weird as that is, NFC team. But that's weird. You're seeking refuge from the Bears and the Browns, man. That's not a good look for the Bears, man.
Man, you know what? Honestly, is to me and Ken, you called me out for my patience with Trubisky. I saw prior to this year, I saw a lot of comparisons, a lot of parallel comparisons between the trajectory that Mayfield had been on prior to this year and Trubisky up until this point as well. And, like you say, when you can simplify an offense, play to the strengths of a quarterback and not let the game plan kind of come before sort of the process of filling out a game, seeing how defense responds and making your adjustments. They're not force feeding things. And I felt like, if the Bears could just figure that out, not to go back to the Bears, but if they could just figure that aspect of it out, we could really see how good of a team they have. There's a lot of hype, a lot of talk about, the money spent and defense and all of that. There's not one thing. At what point did that become, unacceptable, especially for Chicago fans? So to me, that's been the most frustrating thing for a Bears fan, and especially being here in Cleveland now and seeing what you can do in terms of just, really aligning your team around strong run game, defense, and good enough quarterback play.
I got a question for you, Sean, because now to me, and let me be honest with you. I care about Khalil Mack, right? But all that, he's getting held all the time. You are in the place where the next great pass rusher is, period. All right, and Myles Garrett. And Myles Garrett can get held, but without COVID, the only thing that stops Myles Garrett is COVID and racist Rudolph. And all right, that's the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, I believe in Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett, brother, I'm here for you. Right? When you reacted, I said I know there was several N-words said at that time to make you react in the fashion that you reacted to. But when you look at Myles Garrett, I want you to be honest. Being a Bears fan, when you look at Myles Garrett and Khalil Mack, do you see a difference in effort, a consistent effort? I guess it's the question I want to ask you, because you see Myles Garrett more than the rest of us do.
How old is Myles Garrett now? He's what, 5 years in?
I knew he was gonna use age. So I was gonna tell you, don't use age, because Khalil Mack not an old man either. Khalil Mack he ain't 32 out there I'm tired.
He ain't young guy either. Not a young guy.
Yeah, but guess what? Who'd he come in the draft with, Sean? Who'd he come in the draft with?
I don't know. You tell me.
Aaron Donald. And guess what Aaron Donald do every week? And with two or three people in the middle, he'd be on that ass every week. He's just as old as him.
Yeah, he's putting in work. Man, look, I can't make any excuses for Khalil Mack. I really can't. What shocked me yesterday was when they talked about how dinged up he is. How many injuries he's played through this year, and we don't know the extent of those injuries, because they're real hush up inside the front office of the Bears. But he's played through them apparently, and he's hey, get out there and earn your money. I get that, but are you getting to the point of you ready to make a move, offload Mack and try?
No. It would be prohibitive from the fact of the dead money on the cap. And I've defended Khalil Mack. I've had friends that didn't watch football due to Colin Kaepernick, and when they came back was like, hey, let me ask you this about Khalil Mack. And my first reaction is to defend Khalil Mack. But when you defend somebody, you start to watch them. And there's sometimes where it's like, listen, I get you're being hold, but it's like, oh, you got a good hold, I'm gonna stop. Right? And that think about that first year, he was getting held then too. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like last year, Khalil, and I wasn't mad at him. I feel like he checked out once he knew he started making business decisions that they weren't going to be good. I'll tell you, if they were a championship team, I think Khalil Mack would be playing like his hair was on fire, to be honest with you. But I think when we don't give credit, I think the defense plays hard, but I think there's a difference between playing hard and playing like we can win it all. And that first year, on top of it, they were winning, but he was trying to prove something. He hasn't necessarily played down after down like that. And you're right. I'm sure he's dinged up, but from all of us playing sports, everybody's dinged up right now. Everybody's hurt, right? No one's 100% unless you haven't been playing all year long. So like that. In this Bears defense, I'm gonna tell you the players. There's some players I'm gonna give you real quick that I was looking at this year and I had questions about. I'm gonna tell you the two: Eddie Jackson, Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith, questions on, buddy. Do whatever you got to do on the weekends because you keep back in, right? Eddie Jackson, beginning of the year, okay, Eddie. Now it's back to I don't know if you deserve that type of contract because you got like Ed Reed money. You know what I'm saying? You got Troy Polamalu. You got supreme dollars. All right. So those guys I had questions about. Khalil Mack was one of the guys that it was like, And when it gets to the point where Khalil Mack should have 10 sacks by now. Period. All right. That's just the truth of the matter. He should have 10 sacks. And I know Akeem Hicks was hurt, but even without Akeem, he didn't have Akeem Hicks with the Raiders. No. But no, I'm not saying you should get rid of him. The problem is, you need to, and you got to wait another year. And we knew he wasn't going to fulfill this contract. You got to get rid of Robert Quinn. You wasted some money. Listen, I'm not supposed to know that you're supposed to keep Leonard Floyd because I don't watch him all the time. But you told me he could do all these things in the passing game and this, that, and the other. And Leonard Floyd right now is better than Robert Quinn. One, because he plays the damn run. All right. And two, We're never in situations where defensive edge rushers can just pin their ears back outside of this weekend and chase the damn passer. This is the first. When else? And this is kind of getting to what you were talking about earlier. If the Bears hadn't had that long run, if they hadn't had that long run, Cal, they still would have whooped the Texans' ass. Because you know why? Because Deshaun Watson's old coach and GM hates him. He just never owned up to it. Because only somebody that would hate him would trade away Jadeveon Clowney and DeAndre Hopkins to a perennial quote-unquote quarterback like him. And then to a certain degree, if he was here, he may have traded Will Fuller, who Sean Watson was fighting for, telling y'all better not trade him. You should have said that for DeAndre Hopkins. But the point that I'm trying to make is he's playing this old school Ben Roethlisberger sandlot football. He's holding on to the ball too long, trying to make something on every play. So as soon as the rush gets there, if they can close the pocket enough, we gonna get you. You know what I'm saying? And he's stuck in that mind frame where it's like, dude, you gotta win another day. You gotta get rid of that ball. Once that happened, this game was a wrap. I was sitting there like, oh, they're gonna turn it around. I was like, no. This is over.
We did a lot of sleeping. I think being wrapped up in our Bears stuff, we didn't really get across as well as what I think a lot of people didn't understand how bad Houston really was. And Houston, they've probably been the worst run organization in the NFL for the past couple of years now, even worse than the Bears. So we think we the worst everything here, but Houston, they really got it bad though.
Only thing they did right was just draft Deshaun Watson. When you even go to the trade for Laramie Tunsil and what they gave up, what they didn't get for Jadeveon Clowney, you may as well have re-signed Jadeveon Clowney. At least then you could have traded him and perhaps got something more. And then because you didn't want DeAndre Hopkins' baby mamas, what type of Christian bullshit is this? You didn't want his baby mamas around? Like, maybe it's a lie. But when you have a top 3 receiver who is arguably number 1 and your best player is your quarterback, and you feel like, and he brought out David Johnson. David Johnson ain't been shit for 2 to 3 years since he messed his hand up. And you had the nerve to come to the owners and be like, you know what I got for y'all? I got David Johnson. We gonna go get Brandon Cooks, who's, regardless of how good he's supposed to be, is traded every damn year, basically, just getting drafted by the New Orleans Saints, right? So, like, this guy's supposed to be helping Deshaun Watson, right? And you've done nothing but set this young man back in the first place. No, you could have got an offensive line with the damn draft picks you gave away for Laramie Tunsil in the first. Like, it's just when you hit the point, it's a worse one franchise, Kyle, because one, you have the key part, but you've done nothing to accentuate it in the quarterback.
Yeah, that came up on the I think it came up on the NBC Sports Chicago after show where they were talking about how the Bears, like people were saying, the Bears have everything but the quarterback, but you also don't want to be the team that has the quarterback and nothing else. And that's what Houston has. And
I take the quarterback and nothing else because, and it's the only problem with Deshaun Watson. Listen, he too gritty. Because it's like little man, boy, and I mean little in frame. He just started run like a fullback, right? But if he stays healthy, I'd rather rebuild my team in 2.5, 3 years and have him grown in his knowing I can't do it all. I'd rather have that because I had the rules out because he's not even playing to the rules. The rules protect quarterbacks the last 15, 20 years, right? But he has to do so much. He has to throw his body out there to win. I'd rather have that and build around that, because you know what you could do? What you could do if you have Deshaun Watson is sit there, build in the trenches, and kind of do what the Bears thought they were doing, and then go off and spend money on that one player, i.e. a defensive player to set you on the roll to start winning, but you have a quarterback on the other side to complement that defensive player in Khalil Mack. You didn't have that. So once everyone figured out the Bears offense and Matt Nagy, and then he was running the Gary Crowton razzle-dazzle offense, it's like, oh, dude, we got y'all now because one, now we can key in on your defense and you have them out there too much, but we know offensively you're not going to do squat.
But they got to get the right team builder in because I worry about him just being his whole peak, his whole, peak
cut short
prime being, it could be cut short. It could be a Andrew Luck situation, or he just is beat up throughout the entire time. He's like the next Archie Manning or something, and he doesn't play in any meaningful games throughout his career. So, that's definitely, as much as we missed him here in Chicago, just to see him in any situation be, have his career play out like that would be a shame, regardless of who he's playing for.
Yeah, the head coach. Yeah, the head coach. Yesterday's game, I was, it's a blowout, and then, I'm watching the game with my dad, and we're like, why the hell do they still have Deshaun Watson out in the fourth quarter? Like, the game's over with, and he's running. Like, what? Like, is this head coach watching this game, or is he like watching another game? Like
that's
how you
Romeo? Wherefore art thou Romeo?
Yeah, and it's like, bro. And when I didn't know that Romeo Cornell was the head coach, and I'm like, oh damn, like this dude was the head coach. I'm like, oh damn, like this franchise is. They're screwed. Like, if he's the head coach, they're screwed. Like, get him out of there.
Yeah, he won't be the coach much longer, but yeah.
Speaking of Myles Garrett, he's the Cleveland nominee for Walter Payton Man of the Year. I just want to point that out.
That was makeup year. He probably putting in some work this year.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I don't know about Rudolph like that. Also, I'm putting that out there for Myles Garrett's thing. Just pointing.
I hope he ain't been nominated for Pittsburgh.
No. They listen.
Nah.
You sit there.
See, they got Garrett all in Africa.
But look, exactly, Kat. That's what like he's in there. Look, to get to your point real quick, Dedrian. I was watching that game thinking the same thing. Like, man, especially after he hit his funny bone or wherever he hit Watson. And you know what it hit me is that him and JJ Watt are trying to create a culture. Right, and because you saw JJ Watt wouldn't sit by himself, it looked like he sat on a mop bucket or something over in the corner. And they trying to sit there and show a way to create a culture, so that's why he was still in there. But I'm with you. I wouldn't have had his ass out there. AJ McCarron would have been taking it the rest of the way, because why are you going to sit there and get him hurt? He's your chief asset, and you paid him already.
Yep.
Like, so this isn't even a situation where it's like, you know what, we can juice him. We're not gonna pay him anyway, so we can. If he gets hurt, you paid him. You know the season is over. Go get y'all drafted. But I still get that you're trying to culture build, because some of these young players around them, you want to teach them that even in the dark times, you got to go hard. But you can't risk an asset like that. I mean, I hate to say it, but JJ Watt is basically spent. And he's at the end of his deal also. So it's the apples to oranges thing when you kind of look at both of them. But I think JJ Watt sets the standard, and becoming the next new leader, Deshaun Watson's trying to keep that standard going.
Yeah, I think if I'm Watt, I mean, yeah, you're trying to build a culture and everything, but the writing's on the wall. Like, your owner let the GM trade away all this talent, and wait a minute, I'm building a culture, and this owner let the former GM, get rid of all this talent. No, I'm going somewhere else and get my ring. Like, I love Houston, community building, but I need to get my ring. Like, I am not killing myself here.
Can you say this is last year with Watt?
Yeah.
I believe it's like, if it's not his last year, I think this may be his walk year. Maybe I don't know if it's next year, this year, but I think it's this year because he just wanted to play throughout the deal. But yeah, Watt's deal is about to be up. Like, so that's all. It's always been like, what's he going to do now? And he's basically like, I want to stay here. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's JJ Watt, so chances are, think about all the money that they haven't signed people with. Like, you got the DeAndre money off, you got Davion's money off. You made Laramie Tunsil the highest paid tackle damn near in football, but you should have enough money for JJ Watt. I don't necessarily know if that's what you know what, I think he may have one. This may be he may have 1 year left, because I feel like the announcers were saying that he could maybe be an asset to use. And I remember thinking like, yeah, but who's going to pay you an exorbitant amount for an often injured asset that has 1 year left? And listen, I'm clearly
Rams.
I was gonna say I'm clearly wrong, because he wasn't often injured. But when you look at the fact that Khalil Mack deal was coming up, and the Bears signed him and been trading and signed him right away, so there's clearly some teams that defensively could use a player like that. And I mean, at this point, they need to go into a rebuild because of what Bill O'Brien did. And it's sad, because they had enough players. Look, and this is kind of like the Milwaukee Bucks Malcolm Brogdon situation. And I thought this before. Max Kellerman kept saying it all the time. Why wouldn't you, in a team that in a small market with a player that's getting to be just below all-star quality level, why wouldn't you sign him? Because then it gives you an asset to add to trade so that you have one, the money that matches, but also talent that you can throw in 2 or 3 players and bring back a star player, like especially if you're in a win now situation. And I feel like Houston wasted that with Jadeveon Clowney, DeAndre Hopkins. They still could have traded both of them, but they should have done it in a much better manner than what Bill O'Brien done. So basically, if you trade Jadeveon Clowney, and we all know he is not who he was supposed to be, you should at least got like a 2 and a 3 or a 4, right? But when you trade away DeAndre Hopkins, dog, let's just say you don't get a 1. You better get at least 2 2s. Like just honestly, for you to trade him at this point in his career, and you didn't trade it to rebuild on the cheap, because when you get those draft picks, you don't have to pay him as much. He just like Bill O'Brien really pissed me off of what he did down there, especially because it seems like the reason that he did it. It just really aggravates me.
Like
it was like it was personal.
Yes.
What it wasn't a thinking move from the beginning.
Emotional.
So it was emotional. So that's what you get when you do stupid moves like that. Yeah. But yeah, like I say, let's move on, man. Like I say, Bill O'Brien isn't someone you need to harp on. But let's talk about another Houston team that was, I guess, tying it into what the Bears did this weekend. There was another Houston team in town, the Rockets, played 2 games with the Bulls. They started off the preseason. I'm gonna start with you, Sean, because I know you were texting me last week about how excited you were for the season and everything. So, what were your thoughts, man? What do you take from those first couple games? Look like Patty Williams P. Will is he look like he's not scared, at least for the time being. And there's some, Kobe is trying to feel his way through being the man on the floor, the floor captain. And there's some other stuff. Laurie's still not hitting shots like we may want, and Carter's having some issues too. But there's some good and some bad going on there. But it's interesting at least. I know Ken. Going back to the old show, I know you say you like the Bulls to be at least interesting, if not good. So but I'm gonna start with you, Ken. I'm mixing y'all. I'm saying let's start with you, Sean. Then you can go in. Yeah. What do you think about this past week?
Yeah, I think the storyline around James Harden kind of cast a ominous cloud on what's happening in Houston, and I was looking forward to seeing him and John Wall and Boogie Cousins and kind of seeing how that whole thing could meld potentially. So the fact that he didn't play and we got blown out the way that the Bulls did that first game, granted, it was very vanilla, right? Their defensive schemes were just, real basic. Put the ball in Kobe's hand and see what he could do. I mean, this is very much a transitional year for the Bulls. And at the same time, like you say, there are some real critical decisions that they're going to have to make, between Lowry's extension, if they're going to give him one. Can Wendell Carter play the center primarily? Can Kobe White be a point guard or a floor general? And then, what do you do with Zach LaVine? Which, for the life of me, I don't really understand why that's even a subject of debate. He seems like the one guy on that roster where you really need to be trying to build around and identify as a pillar. There's this constant chatter around, timelines and this, that, and the third. The Bulls are at a point where, first and foremost, they have to reestablish a winning culture and what that looks like. And they got a good coach. So, ride it out with Donovan. You take your lumps this year, maybe make some moves on the margins, whether that's, offloading Otto Porter or Thad Young, or maybe even a Satoransky, and try to bring in 1 or 2 other pieces that could really complement, your core 4 or 5 guys. But I'm willing to be patient. Last year we dealt with the whole boiling, nightmare for a year and a half. I mean, we've seen a lot worse days with relative to the Chicago Bulls. So If it's a transitional year with a couple of critical decisions on the horizon, that's cool. Play it out. Give you guys the best chance to really showcase their abilities and take it from there.
I'm not worried at all about them making the playoffs this year. Just to say, but yeah,
I feel like
you may be worried about it in what manner? Should I ask?
I'm just saying I'm not worried about it.
Like they're not going to make it, or they are going to make it.
Well, you don't care if they make it.
Yeah, I don't care.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to make sure.
Okay.
You sound like you were saying that you think they're going to make it. Definitely.
No. I'm just saying I'm not worried about it. No.
They need to make a plan.
So it's remarkable because, man, if you know Sean, his Bulls fandom is super strong. He comes out of like meatball land. But I get on him because I don't think they deserve his fandom. You know, I say this for all Chicago teams. You know what I'm saying? The Cubs and the Blackhawks, they've proven recently in the last decade why their fans deserve their fandom. Really, the rest of these teams haven't proven that, and for you to be a dedicated fan. With the Bulls, and my observations early on, it's too early to really make these. Watching a lot of the tape when Tony told us what Casey was going to say, there's going to be Patrick Williams. I did a deep dive into Patrick Williams because I'm like, what the hell? And I had saw Patrick Williams the day before in the Athletic as being mentioned perhaps as a chance to be the Bulls pick. And I'm like, is this the second round pick? I went back and looked. I was like, no, that's the first pick, right? So I delved in and watched a lot of tape. The things that I noticed was he could dribble, he could shoot, he was explosive. And I saw that and I was like, you know what? I don't mind this because this is a weak ass draft. So, and usually I'd be like, look, to me, I put it along the Wendell Carter line. When I put that taking Wendell Carter, I'm like, come on, man. Right? Like, you need to be a bit more adventurous than that, which I feel like this pick was. Yesterday's game, he was off. I like a player who, with Patrick Williams, who doesn't seem like he thirsty for attention, but sometimes like, man, I'm about to get mine. Because that's the question. We used to say this, me and my buddy, about Derrick Rose the first season. It was like, he's a pure point guard, but will he have that killer instinct in him? And when Derrick, that second year when players was out, he had to score more. He got that blood in his mouth like a shark, and he liked it. He's like, this is the drug I care for. I'm going for mine. And that's what, when I see that Patrick Williams is like, you know what? I know it's preseason, whatever, but I'm trying to get out. I'm like, I like that. I like, because I don't want you just to be this kind of toolsy guy who is there as the third or fourth option. I want you to start refining your skill set. I think today, I watched the game today actually because I was watching football yesterday, and my nickname I came up with him today is Steady Eddie. All right, he's steady. Listen, and also look at the flick of the wrist. If it's not the 3-point, he kind of shuttles it a little bit, but when he's in that lane or whatever, when his funny is like,
he got some swag on that mid game.
But again, it's early on that, and I'll say this too. I don't see the defensive intensity in him that I was expecting to see, and it may be that he's just not comfortable yet. But I mean, I saw a little bit. He kept the point guard. He stayed in front of the point guard at one point, but it's too many times that I didn't see necessarily the defensive intensity. I didn't see him close out in the lane at times. He stayed with his man. And those are the times actually outside of offense. That's the thing I was thinking about the last game. It's like, wait, defense is supposed to be your calling card. Those are the times I want to see him excel more as his offense grows. I was a Kobe White fan at North Carolina. My concern with Kobe White is defensively, because I do think he'll never be a pure point guard, but I think he has the IQ, as we've seen with some of the lob passes and the pass that he did to Laurie yesterday when it was on the string, he threw it. That you see he's a lot more cognizant of being a facilitator than he was last year. But defensively, with John Wall coming off injury, man, John Wall was drinking his shape in those two games. It was like, damn, son, like, you got to get better. And in my head, I'm not saying he's the same player. It made me get back to Derrick Rose, because even though we all love Derrick Rose, we know that Derrick Rose is not a great defensive player. Sometimes
oh, my God.
Like, come on, Derrick, right?
He never played the passing lane.
So it's just, to me, as far as staying in front of his play, because now if Kobe White's going to get a ton of minutes, he's going to be going up against the deepest position in the NBA, and that's point guards, all right? With the rule change over the last decade, it's the deep position in the league, so he has to be able to stay in front. No point guard can sit here and shut down another point guard, but he has to be able to stay in front of his point guards. Right now, I'm with Sean as far as the Zach LaVine moving thing. That's determined on what you would get. Like, I'm not moving Zach LaVine just to say for moving Zach LaVine. Like, he has a contract this sweet. He has a skill set this sweet. Because most teams that will be bringing him there, well, look at it as twofold. A contender is bringing him there to be the second or third best player, or a small market is bringing him there to be a gate attraction. So you need and on top of that, he's cheap for the what you get back from him. So, like, even if you did decide to do something, you just can't do it on the whole hump. The player that I question the most, and I've always done this since he's been here, and he has looked like trash. And all I saw in the Tribune and in the Athletic was how multi-faceted, splash, as I make up words, Wendell Carter Jr. was going to be on this offense, and he's going to be facilitating and shooting threes. Shorty is like 1 for 9 in this joint, right? Listen, the whole Wendell Carter, listen. Give me red right now, all right? My office hours are at 9 o'clock. Give me Daniel Gafford red right now, because Wendell Carter Jr., and I get it. I get that the type of character he is, it leads to the people in the media liking him a lot. Because to me, that's part of it. He's a stand-up young man. He wants things to be done the right way. But when it comes to what he does on the floor, it hasn't happened. And this year, it's early again, so I'm digging. But it being early, it's like, y'all, listen, y'all know this ain't gonna work like this. Like, y'all out here saying Shutter's gonna be running the point power for the center in this joint, and it's like, hell to the no. So that to me was the screaming out, I think, over the last couple of games of things that have kind of just been burning my side.
Des, you got anything you want to add about the Bulls?
Yeah, this Bulls team, I mean, looking from the first game, I didn't see the second game, but the first game, Wendell Carter, like, my biggest gripe with him, and you might agree with this, Ken, like, the Bulls, like, this roster only has, like, 3 good athletic players, Kobe White, Patrick Williams, and Zach LaVine. And Wendell Carter Jr. and Lauri Markkanen, they kind of, like, shuffle their feet, where they just, like, okay, I'm supposed to do something, but I don't know if I should do it right now. And it's like they don't react. Like, they're mentally still, like, trying to think the game through. And I think, like, I don't know, Wendell Carter I'm on the fence with him. Sometimes he has his moments, but he's not too consistent. And, that might be a trade piece, trade chip that they can, ship him and get somebody more athletic, because eventually the Bulls team will be more athletic. That's where they're going towards, but they don't have enough players to be athletic.
And we said this on the text chain, Kyle, you and Dedrian on it, when Melvin was talking about Wiseman and talking about Wendell Carter, and he was like, Wendell Carter being a rim protector. I'm like, when has Wendell Carter protected the rim?
He's slow. He's slow.
And listen, I'm not saying that he can't get a block. That's not what I'm talking about. When you're saying rim protector, to a certain degree, you're talking about when we grew up, you start to hear footsteps if you're in the lane and that guy's around. You like
that quick reaction.
Like, so-and-so's around, right? Like, when has he been? I'm not dissing Wendell Carter as being an asset in the NBA. I'm dissing where he's been drafted and the hype around it. Because most of the people in the media that I know and that I hear have an affinity for him, and they keep waiting for it to happen. When I feel like, for instance, like Lauri, I'll say this: the numbers haven't looked right on Lauri, but the actions have looked right on Lauri. Right? Lauri's doing a lot. Lauri's game looks a lot more like freshman year. Unfortunately, this is year 4, basically, and you look like how you did when you're supposed to look now like a vet. But as far as him trying to do stuff, it looks more like it. Listen, I would like the Bulls to sign him, but I would want them to get a sweetheart deal. Like, if they sign him to, like, where he's supposed to get if he was succeeding, I would be upset. I'm a Lauri Markkanen guy, because he does not deserve preferential pay as far as, like, oh, you're this year, you're supposed to get this much. This is the people in your class to get. No. This needs to be a situation where you're signed at a below market deal as we're trying to figure out if you still the dude, and if you click when we move your ass here to help us, or we keep you in it's cheaper, we can bring in more assets, or if you suck, it doesn't hurt us as much because we didn't overpay you in the first place. But like these are like I think for the most part the players that I'm kind of like sinking in on, and I'm fascinated with, and I'm watching for the most part this preseason.
I find it hard for there to be like if he keeps going and he's sort of so this year, I don't see there being that great of a market for him. So maybe the Bulls could probably
package him.
You know, he's
trade
like,
him. You gotta move him.
You gotta package him.
Some GM is like Boylan had him for 2 years. Boy, you let me get my head. Like I'm just saying, like there will be teams looking because if we were saying that he's going to fall out of favor, there are going to be teams that are like, what I can do with him because of his skill set. You know what I'm saying? And
they're probably will be, but I think in a Luka Doncic era, I think you got to ask for a little bit more than what.
Hold on now you're being a racist. I'm gonna tell you why. Luka Doncic is a whole different beast Luka Doncic is a different beast from 98% of the NBA. All right,
that is true.
Like he's a different. Forget his color. He's a different dude. Like, because I'll tell you this about Luka. None of us knew he was that strong. Muggs be bouncing off of him, right? He's a guard.
He's got size.
He might be fast. Muggs be bouncing off of Luka, and he's still.
He is 6'7", 6'8", 230 though. You know, like I mean, that's legit. Came in.
True, but Sean, listen, there's a lot of guys like that don't accentuate
the physicality.
Right, yeah. Like when you see, for instance, like Paul George just looked like a bitch to Luka, right? And again, he's not as weighty as Luka, but he got grown man. Listen, Paul George bones have set. Luka's bones haven't set yet, right? And you see Luka's just like, I don't care about this. I don't care about you either, Kawhi. That's a different type of beast compared to, and listen, I won't even say Larry. That's compared to all the white players in the NBA.
But look, I'll bring it back down to earth. Okay, yeah, because Luka's out of this.
He's going to be a multi MVP if he stays healthy.
Yeah. But compare Laurie to like a Bogdanovich and choose either
or Porzingis.
Bogdanoviches. Yeah, but the damn Milwaukee wasn't trying to sign and trade Laurie if he's in that position that the Bogdanovich in Sacramento. Laurie's got to hit. He's got to hit. He's got to extend the defense better. He's got to hit from outside more, or he's got to show some ability to guard from the perimeter on back. He's not doing either of those things, and I don't think in the league as it is now, he's really that much of a standout to where it's like, I say it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Bulls can't bring him in for a sweetheart deal. That's all I'm saying.
To me, from a temperament standpoint, like. I get, the skill set and, the offensive looks with Boylan. What it boils down to me is I've gone personally to too many Bulls games and seen him play up close and personal and just watch him, check out, glaze over, from a standpoint, Lowry doesn't bring it. And to a similar degree, Ken, to your point around with the media, local media in Chicago, how they've sort of propped up Wendell Carter. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to Bulls games up close and personal and have seen Wendell Carter roll his eyes at his teammates, not take accountability for blowing a sign, showing up his players, showing up his coaches. And he's a young guy. These are all things that you learn and it's part of the process of becoming a leader. But you got to do more than talk a good game. You got to display it on the court. And as it relates to being a backline defender, you all tell me, y'all there in Chicago, you watch the games. How many times have you heard Wendell Carter? Have you heard him on the court? You, the anchor of the defense, it's your responsibility.
Nope.
Hey.
Be vocal. Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
he's not thinking ahead.
MVP caliber defender. We knew that he was a vocal guy on the backline defense. That was the first thing I noticed about Joe Kim.
Great point, Sean.
Yep.
Wendell Carter. So. For me, I think it's a temperament thing that for a number of players, Lowry, Chandler Hutchison, being able to play through some adversity and a little bit of pain. Like there are far too many guys on this Bulls team who just from a mental standpoint who don't have that edge. And that to me is the reason number one why when you have a guy like Zach LaVine who exemplifies what it looks like to put in that grit, not to mention the contract, not to mention the fact that from a reputation standpoint around the league, he's your fastest track to bringing in another free agent. Because Zach he has the reputation. He's got the clout. He's got the stroke around the league to be able to get, maybe another, mid-tier guy in that mid-20s, young 20s range to ride with them. I don't see that with those other guys. Not yet, at least. Maybe Kobe. Yeah. But, they got a long way to go to establishing themselves from a temperament and just the tone of the team has to change. Never mind the skill set. That'll come with good coaching.
To that degree.
Tony, real quick. I used to debate Tony. Wendell Carter's first year, to your point, Sean. When Wendell Carter was talking about how there was no leadership, Tony was like, he should be the leader. I was like, how the hell is a rookie going to come in here to be the leader? And then when you say that you're showing people up and not showing the fundamentals of leadership, because at that point, how young you are in your career, you're supposed to lead by example. That's really how you're supposed to get out there and let them know, listen, this is how I'm doing it. And that's what the media is supposed to key in on. But listen, I don't know if it was the Asian tiger print that was supposed to be like Wakanda, because y'all know that on those Gucci scarves that him and his family was wearing, those were Asian dragon tigers. Those weren't black African tigers. I don't know if it was that has everybody buying in and his parents moving in here to Chicago with him, but he has gotten a pass. And listen, initially it's because he was hurt, but at this point, it's not because he was just hurt. It's who this player is at this point. And it's funny because he's pulling a Paul George. When Paul George is sitting there, Paul George was like, man, Doc didn't have me in no pick and roll. And Paul George is in the most pick and rolls in his career last year, right? It's the same thing with Wendell. Well, now they're trying to redo it. Man, Wendell was doing all this stuff for high school and at Duke for 1 year. And it's like, when I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, this don't sound right? And then when you watch it, and it's like, dude, that's not his skill set to be running the O on the arc. Like what are y'all talking about? And then taking these lopsided threes, it's like, y'all out of y'all mouth. So that to me has been, and I think media-wise, we've done a disservice with reporting the facts. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just how I feel.
Likability means a lot, and when you have those moments, like you said, where they had the he said it was the leopard print or
dog, it was
Asian print.
But it was supposed, because remember, this was after Black Panther.
Yeah.
Like Wakanda. I saw these joints 3 weeks ago, right? And I'm like, dog, those tigers are Asian dragons. Just go back and look at them, how they're made. And I'm like, this ain't, and it's Gucci, and they don't even like us, right? So then he got the expensive scarves from the people that don't even like us, right?
Yeah, Gucci ain't never had no Black Panther on their stuff, so that makes sense. Yeah,
it's just, and again, listen. Now let me say this: if I'm wrong, cool. If he goes, because this is a small sample size and it's early in the season. If he goes and proves me wrong, I'm happy. I don't dislike Wendell Carter. I just felt like he was given an allowance, and I never understood why he's been given such an allowance. Maybe I think it's because of media availability, but I just never understood why he's been given such an allowance. Because to me,
there's probably low expectations though too. Because I mean, how much could you really expect in the system?
How these cats been talking to me about Wendell? They've been expecting a lot, and it's been like, listen, Wendell Carter is a case in point of when you look at somebody and you be like, is there something wrong with me? Like that's how, because of how much preferential media that he's gotten, that I've had to question myself. Like maybe I'm not viewing this through the right lens, and it's like, nah, it's not me viewing it through the right lens. He's getting a pass. And listen, I was a person where, and Sean brought up Joakim Noah. I remember, I'm a Joakim guy. That last Florida team was probably the last college team I really loved, right? Like that's the last one. I remember tuning in and be like, man, let me check this kid out, Joakim Noah, they keep talking about, and falling in love with that team, and then them winning again the next year against Greg Oden. Greg Oden whooped their ass, him and Al Horford, but they beat him though, right? Greg Oden was doing his thing to them in that national championship game. But I remember looking at the fact that both of those players, and this is a funny thing too, when you watch Al Horford and Joakim Noah at Florida, you knew they could handle the ball because in college, they was leading on the break. You know what I'm saying? Yep. Like when people talk about stuff with Wendell, and I get he's shooting a three better, but I saw them both of them handling the ball back then. And I remember when Joakim was here early and he was messing up, and I knew Joakim was going to mess up. If anybody followed Joakim Noah, you knew there was going to be a couple of moments where he was fucking up. All right. And I remember the time that he got suspended, team suspension, and it was Ron Adams, the other Ron, or the Jim Boylan, or Ron, the other Jim Boylan, I think. The other Boylan. And the fine wasn't significant enough to the vets and Body and Ben Wallace and Adrian Griffin, who at this point I couldn't stand Adrian Griffin because the Bulls traded away what's his name? That's with what was with the Lakers that just won. What was the guy that was playing with LeBron and didn't shoot the shot against Golden State?
JR.
JR. So if anybody doesn't remember, the Bulls traded Tyson Chandler.
Yeah, he was good.
And they traded J.R. Smith, and they sent J.R. Smith straight to Denver. All right, no path to go. And the Bulls didn't have talent. It was like, wait, I get that you may not like this player, but if I remember J.R. Smith from watching in the McDonald's All-American game when he was in the three-point contest and the dunk contest, and I'm like, and I get he's a knucklehead, but you don't have enough talent to just be dismissive like that. And they brought back from Denver Adrian Griffin, who had been on the team before. So when I hear that Adrian Griffin is sitting there telling the team they need to suspend Joe Moore, I'm like, get his ass go. He shouldn't even be here. I was wrong because I thought Joe had about 2 more mess ups after that. And that's not to say that we all know that he was late at times to come to practice. I'm not saying that there weren't things that he was doing that was always straight. But as far as like really messing up, that was the last time Joe messed up. And that's when he started to go up. You know what I'm saying? So like it can happen for Wendell Carter Jr., but I just haven't seen it so far. And with Joe, we talking about a partier who hadn't locked in to be in the NBA. Where with Wendell Carter, as far as we were all concerned, he's a hard worker. He's locked in. I just don't know if he has the talent that everybody else is putting on him.
Yeah, it's from the neck up. That's something that I noticed about Wendell Carter. Like a lot of times during like simple transition, like mentally he's like 2 plays behind. He's not playing like anticipating, like 2 plays ahead. He's just like, oh, I was supposed to get to the basket. It's like, come on, bro. Like you could see the dude pick and roll, and he about to drive towards you, like anticipated. So that's something I do agree with you on that, Ken.
We'll see. I think the Bulls are back in action on Wednesday, and I know Sean, you mentioned the Houston. I think Houston should feel encouraged about what they did over the weekend without Harden, but they got him back tomorrow, so we'll see if that's going to be if that's going to blow up or not. You know, it'll be interesting. But before we go though,
one other question on the Houston front. You think your boy John Wall had his sit down with Jay Prince yet?
I think that's gonna happen during the season. I don't think it's happened yet.
Wait. Okay. Why does he have? I'm a Jay Prince guy. Why does he have to have a Jay? Did James Harden have a Jay Prince sit down that we officially know about? I know Steve Francis did because
I haven't heard anything. Yeah, you did. You know, Francis. Yeah.
Yeah, we see Francis when he got the living bejesus snatched out of that chain on his neck.
Yeah,
Jay Prince had to get. But when I saw that, he was like, "You got to talk to Jay Prince." I'm like, "Oh, that's."
I think something happened with Harden, but he probably been kept on the low.
On the low, he getting taxed. He getting taxed, Ron. James Harden getting taxed.
He might have, man. He might have. You know, he might have had to buy a Caprice Classic or something. You know.
Some swingers. If you don't give me one swinger, all right, with them things on the side, all right,
swing to the left, man. All right, H-Town, man. That's like I said, that's gonna be interesting this year. I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out. But I said before we wrap up, man, we did 2 hours, man. I appreciate y'all hanging on and having some fun with y'all. I was interested though in what happened this week. It's kind of a wild weekend for U of I in Champaign. You know, you look at the basketball team taking the L to Missouri. You got Lovey getting forced out. And the football team, of course, took that big L to Northwestern. And then, the story of Jimmy Collins passing away, R.I.P. I want to do some reflecting on him in a minute. But, what y'all think about, if you want to jump on either one of those, Ken, like the basketball team, I think it was, they said some. I didn't get to see the end of that game. They said some screwy stuff with the refs and everything, but I think I think after that Duke game, I think that's a little bit of a letdown. For them.
I can agree, but it's early. Also,
Yeah.
I think it's funny. I don't think when this goes to Lovey to a certain degree, I don't think we're applying COVID to some of this stuff because the Big Ten as a whole is down this year. Like the teams that we really thought was like Wisconsin, totally ravaged by COVID. Penn State, and listen, James Franklin was doing all that opining. We need to come back. Where y'all at? Nebraska was not Frost.
Nebraska, yeah.
Where the hell y'all at? You was ready to leave the Big Ten. Where the hell you at? Like it's actually been down. So I would say that, and I know that last year was the first year that Lovey actually started to have some returns. I think he should have had another chance because, to me, Illinois is kind of like, and this is by no means is it apples to apples, but they like the poorest version of Michigan, right? And I mean this by, I understand that Harbaugh needs to go, but who the hell are y'all going to get? Because you're not getting, like, Dabo ain't coming, right? Like, you're not going to get that guy. Because one, is he a Michigan guy? But I mean, you're not like you're not going to get. I mean, credit to you, your academic standards. You're not going to get that guy. You're not going to really get back to the days of Woody Hayes and Bo as far as Michigan, Ohio State. That's not coming back. All right. So like you have these expectations. Now they should expect more than what Harbaugh is doing. But I'm extrapolating that to Lovey in Illinois. Illinois sucks, right? Like. Who are you?
They don't even have that standard of they don't have an Illinois guy.
Now, if you don't want to pay him, I understand that. All right, if it's the amount of money you have to pay him, but like what you just said, Kyle, you don't even have a guy. Your best bet was to let him run and then see what he could really do with really having some years of having his players there. He at least needed 3 years of his players coming through the system, I feel like, before you can say that, because you don't get quality people enough to be like, you know what, I'm tired of it. But you know what? I can, and again, it's not an apples to apples, and it's the reason I fell out of love with NB. It's like it reminds me of Tyrone Willingham. I have no reason to say it, but when a black man is given that job, he's not given the same allowances. When Charlie Weiss lost the same amount as Ty Willingham did in his first couple of seasons, he was retained, if not even given a contract extension, or they let him live out his contract extension for the most part. When Ty Willingham didn't succeed like that, he was cut. And the same thing with Lovey. And I'm not saying that Lovey doesn't deserve it, but still, if he was somebody of a different persuasion that you liked, you would be more willing to give him more chances and more bites at the apple. And you're not good enough to be firing Lovey Smith before exhausting Lovey Smith. And that's just how I feel.
I don't disagree with that, but I have seen some reports today that talked about, and this could be, sweeping the bad stuff out the door with the guy, but there was some reports about him being a little bit, lackluster in regards to reaching out. Look, Illinois they're not getting kids from Chicago. They're not getting the best kids from Illinois, from East St. or anywhere else where they produce guys, Joliet, anywhere in the area where they produce, in the state where they're producing real football players, they didn't get those guys. And there's been reporting about him not even reaching out to coaches. Several, a lot of the big name coaches at the high school level in the state they weren't having conversations with them about anything, about their kids, about anything. And it's like, I think Lovey's at a point where he just wasn't. He had the energy in some ways, but he didn't have the energy in that kissing, like, because like you say, as a black man in the college level, at some points you're gonna be kissing a white
You
coach.
gotta go to Mount Greenwood.
Yeah, you gotta kiss a white
say?
high school coach's behind to get these kids that you want to make you win.
Let me say it for
He
Lovey.
wasn't down for that.
I got the scar on my chin for Lovey too. Let me say it for Lovey. Fuck those kids. Listen, man. If that's the, I'll be. But see, the problem with this is, and Kyle, when you bring that up, with the media cycle, they're going to try to come up with more reasons to say why they got rid of you, and also these are going to be the people that pop up and be like, you didn't get. I bet partially was because those guys weren't coming. And I will say this though, to come back at Lovey, you still have to make those connections and those inroads. You know what I'm saying? Like, or I'll even put it like this: if Lovey isn't making it, he needs to have, going to a later discussion, his Jimmy Collins to go and he could make those inroads like Lou Henson did, as far as going into Chicago, the greater Chicago proper, and bringing those players down there. So if that's true about Lovey, shame on him. I was being facetious, but that's ridiculous. But also, Illinois kids don't go to Illinois. I mean, don't go to that school like that. There's like 4-star prospects. They're not going there. You got Purdue, you got Northwestern. Listen, I hate to say it. You got Indiana, you got Missouri. Like you got programs. Yeah, thank you. Iowa State, right? Like you got so many other places that you can go where it's like, why am I going to go? And we talk about this with like the Bulls, NBA superstars. Why am I going to give my legacy to someone that hasn't proved like they can do right by it? When I can go with someone with a proven track record, and if I fail, it's more on me because I didn't reach my potential rather than they didn't get my potential out of me.
Well, and they're trying to change those narratives. And you look at going back again with the ball team. I think with the basketball team, I think they're trying to find on the football side their Brad Underwood, and they know Lovey is a different energy that Lovey's going to provide. There's a couple of young white coaches that there's one that, like the Army coach. They talking about he's going to be a guy who's going to be up for the job, and there's a guy for like Kent State who's like 34 years old. They're trying to put up. And some people, God help me, are putting up Brent Belima for the job. I mean, I don't know, but I think Illinois, they like I said, they don't have that standard on the football side. They're reaching. And they may fail another 1 or 2 times with these coaches before they find that guy again who could get, because you look at the basketball side, how many years what was it? You talking about 05 and we're on 20 now and they're just getting good again. They took about 3 or 4 coaches for them to even get close to where they could say they're a national power again. So it's key, but like I said, before we go, man, I want to speak to the significance of Jimmy Collins. And you said Ken, like you spoke on the main difference that he made, the main impact that he made was that he formulated the teams that got Lou Henson to be a legend in Champaign. The '89 teams, the early '90s teams, Deion Thomas, Kawani Garris. All these guys who made Illinois a power for a long time. They was going to tournaments straight for like 10, 15 years, and they had one of the best teams to never win a national title, unfortunately. But, that was because of Jimmy Collins, because he recruited and he made the network here in Chicago and throughout the state that he needed to make. He goes on to UIC. UIC never has more success than they had with him. They go to 3 NCAA tournaments with him as coach. I mean, he was just a significant, like I said, a former Bull on the court. He knows the NBA, really just a guy who made a difference in a lot of ways in Chicago and in Illinois in the ball game.
Sean and them used to cover those UIC teams. Sean, what do you have to say about Jimmy Collins?
Man, honestly, I was totally shocked to hear about his passing. I was, kind of been removed from UIC and in some respects college basketball in general for some years now. But I can say that one of my older brothers, DeJuan, actually went to U of I. He attended in the early '90s, and I remember going on many visits to Champaign and just going into Impy. You know, when the basketball team, would be in there playing pickup ball with some of the better, guys who weren't on the team, but they had the respect to be able to hoop with some of the hoopers, and just the excitement of those early '90s teams, man. It made me, it was one of the reasons that I actually got into college basketball, because the buzz for their March Madness runs was so high, and kind of just not just watching it on TV, but seeing how the student population, kids running back to camp, running back to the dorms to catch the games when U of I tipped off, man. I mean, like, the excitement was real. You could feel it in the air, and for me being, not even a teenager yet, to get exposed to that, to me, that was one of the biggest things that really influenced me to get into March Madness and watch and follow college basketball. Like, something about this is a little bit different. Like, I like basketball. I'm a fan of the Bulls and Michael Jordan, but this here energy right here, this is just as fun. This is just as exciting. And then just to see the dynamic of the teams with so many black players on a campus that's predominantly white. So for me, I had a lot of respect for that. And like you said, they never won a national championship, but they came pretty damn close. And he's a big reason for that.
Yeah, they never had the better connection with Chicago than they did with Jimmy. And it's another one of those things where a lot of people didn't mess with Illinois because he didn't really get the look after Lou Henson retired. He didn't get the look for the job, and that ruined the basketball program's relationship with the city up until they got Iowa, just about.
That's a good point.
It ruined the connections with the football program for me too. It ruins the connection with me with Illinois because they have this preponderance of not wanting to be connected to Chicago, like they're really downstate. And being an SIU kid, you're not downstate. All right,
Yeah, right. We know it's downstate.
Downstate Kentucky is a stone's throw away. It's downstate. So for me, to be honest with you, and I do not try to make everything relate to race, but the fact that after Lou Henson was let go, and I know that Illinois had a 2-year ban on them because of the Thomas incident. I still to this day, Cal, I believe maybe you hooked us up with Beyond Rankin, and I told him to take down that banner he had on his Twitter with him and Bruce Pearl. Sorry to curse on the show. Fuck Bruce Pearl forever. And I've been thinking about Bruce Pearl these last couple of days, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because Jimmy Collins, and I don't care if Jimmy Collins was cheating, if he wasn't cheating, because they all cheated. All right. The only time it really matters when a black man was doing it well, that it became a thing where you had to tape record. If Bruce Pearl was a saint and was taping Jimmy Collins out of this is cheating, and I don't believe in it, I wouldn't have a problem with Bruce Pearl. But Bruce Pearl has been busted every damn place he's been.
Right.
So you're a cheater. You're a snitch, is what you are. You're part of the damn illegal movement, and you're jumping out, snitching on somebody else a part of it. They're just doing it better than you. So the fact that Illinois didn't stand up and be like, you know what? I don't care. Look at what the talent that he's bringing down here. This is our coach. Think about what Illinois, and let's listen, they may have not won a national championship, but think about what they would have been if Jimmy Collins was the head coach after Lou Henson with the amount of talent that they would have brought in. On top of that, we're talking about Chicago talent. They would have been getting the black kids from different spots. Think about DePaul. Listen, what the hell was Ron Strickland at DePaul? Now, we didn't grow up all of us are too young, fortunately, to where DePaul was DePaul, where they had the players where they can bring in national players. You know what I'm saying? That, Ross Strickland was coaching our lifetime, but it was because of those 70s and early 80s DePaul teams. Because I used to dance your hate when Con Schmidt was on my TV in the late 80s, early 90s. I was like, why is this dude on my television? Because personally, most of y'all don't have to watch DePaul basketball on Channel 9 like we had to, because they were so good in the 70s and early 80s, and then the contract extended for another 15 years of watching the ball. But still, when you see, and this is my problem this is really why I said with Lovey, fuck those kids, because that's a racist tinge to what takes place with U of I. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have, listen, I'm much more of a Northwestern fan than U of I, and that's not how I grew up. But when I was old enough to know what Northwestern was, because I heard Northwestern, I didn't know they were this academic superior school that was right here in my backyard. But I know Northwestern academics may keep some of the people like me out, but it's not this city hate that so much of Illinois has. To the point, it's like, you know what? I don't want to come to your dinner if you don't want me there. So when it comes to Illinois, if I can beat you, because you have the biggest basketball talent pool in the country, basically. Or if it's not right now, it was 3 to 4 years ago, and before that, it lasted at least 12 to 13 years. And you didn't take advantage of any of that whatsoever. You didn't give any of these kids shoeboxes full of money. You didn't get your ass about it. So getting back to Jimmy Collins, I feel that he wasn't respected, and it agitates me, so it brings his anger out. And I don't like to do that when we're talking about somebody transitioning on to the afterlife. But I just think about, if you look at the success that he had at a school like U of I, and he took him to the tournament 3 times and hadn't been there. To think about if he had the full weaponry that he would have had at U of I, what he would have done, and you didn't give him that, and all he did was help you. You knew what the hell he was doing.
Yep. Yeah. That like I say, that proves enough to me, man. Like you said, that he won as much as he did at UIC with nothing there. You know, like I said, if he had the resources and the money and the clout, it would have came with being
national TV appearances.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, no, if you don't think he would have gotten, it may not be the same, but the stuff that Kruger got out of him, the stuff that Self got out of him. You know what I'm saying? That he couldn't have done that with. He is plugged into Chicago, right? Mm-hmm. Like he's plugged. I mean, just think about. Listen, I bet you this would have happened. He would have been good. It would have died down. Man, think about the late '90s, early aughts, with all that basketball talent here in Chicago. That he would have been starting to get those kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, and how that would have just
Paul was able to take advantage of that because
right.
they had
when you look at
Q Rich and
right. And so, like, think of because those are the kids. I'm thinking about them too, Kyle. Like, those would have been the kids that started back over, basically. You know what I'm saying? And their parents were. I know DePaul was. You know, you take him up there on the north side. His father would have preferred him to go out of the city if he could have gotten him out of the city. You know what I'm saying? And it's still close enough that he can go visit his son. So to me, they just squandered it. So I have no feeling of pity for that school. The only feeling I have is you didn't do right by the man that did so much for you. And that's not right. You know what I'm saying? Like, he deserved better than that. And it'd be different if you replaced him with people that had sustained greatness, and you didn't do that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm glad you said that, Ken, and that's pretty much how I feel too. So I just wanted to get that established, man, because people should not forget about that legacy, and you know they should understand what he meant. That's especially those who still really rock with U of I. And, you know, I root for U of I. It's not the same as when I was a kid. Like Sean, with those stories you say, man, I identify that a lot because I was introduced. U of I pretty much introduced me to major college sports. When you're talking about the football side with Simeon Rice and Hardy. Yeah, man, and all them, and they weren't that great, but you could see them on TV, and they played in bowl games. And
talented as hell.
Yeah, and on the basketball side, Deion Thomas, starting with him and all them dudes. Like, I was just too young for the '89 team, but you know those early '90s teams, those were the first teams I saw in playing big time. And by then, DePaul was falling off and stuff, and you know it was So I rocked with Illinois then. It's not the same now, but I do. This team that they got now is very likable. And I think when you look at, they're very lucky that Ayo didn't get more of a look from the NBA draft because he's come back and he has really shown himself to be a much improved player even from last year. And those they got some good kids down there. So I wish the best for them, and I hope that they can, whatever they do with this season on the college side, that they can make something happen. Yeah. But yeah, we gonna wrap it up, man. We at 9 o'clock. Okay, I was gonna leave you with this spot.
I gotta know what Sean is drinking. Sean, what are you drinking?
Yeah, Sean, what you got on you, man?
Cranberry juice.
You say what?
It's a little cranberry juice.
Okay. All right. Just want to know.
Sean, yeah, craft beer shows so shy. To follow him on Twitter, man. So get more drinking tips from Sean and drinking, whatever about that culture. And Ken, man, what's up with you, man? You doing all right with your second hand in Arizona now?
Yeah, I went like I'm checking on him. He just left Denver at like
Nice.
12 something. Like he didn't go the way he was supposed to go. So I've been checking on Ryan, making sure he's alive. All right.
I think we missed an opportunity. I think a group of us should have went out there, man. Because
not with COVID though, Kyle.
But that was the first thing I said to him.
I can't get the Rona right now.
That was the first thing I said to him. Like, the Rona's in Arizona too, but he don't care. But
yeah, it's for him. It's for him, man. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But I would say though, like, if a group like
we're gonna go.
If Dedrian, you and
that's a lot of hours. Listen, dude, it's 20 something. Look, what he left. What did he leave? Monday? He left yesterday. Like, so wait, he left, he had to stay in one place. He left, and then he's gonna have to stay in another place, and then he's probably gonna get to where he's at. Like, that's a long ass trip. I've just been checking on Ryan to make sure that he's safe. I mean, to be honest with you, we haven't been doing shows in person for so long. It doesn't change.
The way we doing stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, he wanted to continue on doing the show. He wanted to do it tomorrow. I wanted to tell him, like, don't you? I told him, like, just get settled and get things right is the most important thing. So, I mean, it's going to be good. I want to do some different things next year. I feel like next year was go hard, see how well it can get. At least give it another year and a half before I tap out like my former partner did. You know what I'm saying? Just to see, but because I feel like there's some games. There's definitely been some games that Ryan and Dedrian and I have. When you say that, Dedrian is also a big part of what takes place that we've made. I mean, the views and stuff. You know what I'm saying? They do well. The SoundCloud views, they actually do pretty well. But still, it's kind of like. Growing further, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, that falls upon all of us, but in particular, it falls upon me, you know what I'm saying? And, how far, and how hard, you know what I'm saying, if you really want to be totally successful. Because, I mean, if you don't reach the point where you make, you got to look in the mirror and be like, well, what did you do to get to the point where you want to get to? So definitely, we're going to hit you with more interviews. Kind of come up with just more flavor that's from us, I would try to say. Because I think that's what we try to sell here. I've always tried to be very open with our listeners because, like, if I can't give you truth, what am I? You're spending time with me. And if I can't give you truth and I'm hiding shit, then what's the point? So part of me is the exchanges. I give you my truth. Sometimes it may seem like, damn, he talking about that. In exchange for you spending some time with me that you don't have to spend, you can spend it with anybody else. You know what I'm saying? So just trying to do more like that. Like me and Ryan have really grown and what we do as far as the 1-2 punch. You know what I'm saying? And then alone to have such a smart media person as we have in Dedrian, and they both of them work hard as hell. You know what I'm saying? So it's, I mean, definitely when you look at the fact that.
Thank you for the plug.
You need social media help. He told you that's what he does. Losing one of my closer friends, not losing, but one of my closer friends just wanted to do something else. You know what I'm saying? That it still feels good. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it is time for some of y'all to start doing the flip again, though, or I'll just cancel it. All right, but it is time. Yeah, you know, but I've also thought about moving it to bi-weekly, but it is time, Kyle. I don't have to tell you. In the past, I didn't have to tell you to do the flip.
Just
You
holler
know,
at me, man.
you
I'll be trying to sleep on
I
Saturdays,
bet
man.
you do. I bet you. Yeah, I bet you all has do. But it is time, Sean. Yeah. But yeah, it is time to you know, saying to try to, you know, get more characters. But the great thing about it, and I think if you do come on and do this flip, I've shortened it because I feel like people don't have time to spend 2.5 hours on us doing this type of stuff. You know, so people.
That's good to know after we just.
I'm looking at the time.
Bastard.
I'm like,
you know,
I'm gonna edit the shit out of this.
I know. So I've been trying to make it where, you know what I'm saying, you get in and you get out so that people, you know, if you're taking a car ride, maybe you'll get majority of the show in to kind of get a taste for it. But like things aren't bad, but I mean things can also be better, and it's a self-reflection as far as realizing what you have to do if you want to take it to another level.
This is that time of year for me where you know, Ken, I sort of always sort of I kind of reanalyze things at this point of the year. You know, I left the D. Davis show at this time of the year. You know, and what that's why I gave it over.
It was this time of the year. It was this time of the year when you left.
Yeah,
Okay.
It was this.
I remember that day. I remember that day.
Yeah.
I won't discuss. I won't go into it. But I remember that day.
Yeah, but you know, I always feel this way. That's why I'm like, if two more of y'all had said I'm going to Arizona with Ryan, I probably would have picked up. I got a couple bags of with y'all.
Whoa. Because in all fairness, we've been discussing like Afton has family there, and actually one of her aunts, my aunt, is talking about. She's my favorite one because I hope they don't see it. But it's one of them's down there, but she's moving, and it's like because I don't know, man. Look at Sean. Some of the city just don't feel the same, and also I didn't necessarily plan on being. I planned on after leaving college moving to California, but my family, my father passed, and I had to be responsible and take care of my grandma and my great aunt. So I ended up being here, and after I had to take care of her grandma, so she ended up being here. So I've never been a believer of living in the desert because it just doesn't sound logical, to be honest with you, because they don't have enough water. But I will say that it's crossed, like when I said to her, like, he's down there, she was just like, yeah, it's just another reason. And like, yeah, you've mentioned it. I mean, it is something that looking at different jobs, and I mean, it has to be a refinement as far as me, but looking at different jobs and not being part of a tandem, you know, if somebody wants to give me a job and I have to move, I'm up. It's nothing outside of my brother's kids, which that's the real thing that I only have holding me here is that my deceased brother has kids and I have to be in their life. Outside of that, I have nothing else that I need to be in Chicago for. So that's kind of like the only thing where I feel responsibility-wise where I have to still kind of be around. And if push came to shove, I just got to do a lot of tripping.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. You know, we all got our things our ties that bind us and everything. But, you know, I think, you know, we got too much that we put into this and too much still along the lines of passion that we can call that, you know, to shut ourselves out from future opportunities. So hopefully more things will pop up in 2021 that, you know, that can lead us to something and, you know, more blessings.
Come up with a new show. We got to come up with something. Listen, I'll put it out here, right? Because like we moving like this. I guess because since, you know, they left us, Kyle. One of them is here sipping right now. Look at him as he sips. They left us, Kyle.
Well, you know, I didn't even mention your former partner in any of this because I knew he's set where he is, so
those dudes put in a lot of work for a long period of time.
Of course.
So I mean, sooner or later, I guess, Kyle, you may have to do some kind of show. But you know, like sometimes, I mean, I feel like in our old age, we're not oil and vinegar, but at times we do. But we understand one another enough to listen. Before we leave, you have 3 of the most bickering MFers on a text line right here back in the days, and Kyle, Sean, and myself. If you can see some of the arguments that we had, and the greatest part of it is knowing that those are your brothers. That you know what I'm saying? Like some things seem so important during that period of time. Because I'm glad it's time right now because I haven't seen a picture of Harlem. Like I love the name, right? It's very like where's my pick? I know I'm not on the real text line Sean with Mac D and so on, but I should at least get some fake picture through something because
I think I could. I agree with you, Ken. I haven't. Yeah.
You understand? I see how he does it. You're gonna text me about the Bulls on some bullshit, right? But,
yeah.
Right, but it's just when you realize as far as and I'm leaving on this. When you realize as far as brotherhood, and you know what I'm saying, regardless, and let's say that we're best friends, but we definitely care about one another and have emotions for one another and want each other to succeed, was one of the best things. I always feel good about D for pulling me into something like that. You know what I'm saying? Because I wouldn't know any of y'all without Demaz. You know what I'm saying? And that's who Demaz is too. Oh, giving Demaz props. That's who Demaz is or whatever. So yeah, you know, like you said, this year let's go hard. I mean, I feel like I'm at least. At points I'd be like, I'm at least gonna do a hard for this year, maybe some more. But let's go hard and let's do something.
We got some more. We got some more in this. Let's at least play out the string.
especially with some of the cats that's out here. It's like I don't know. Like we can do better. We can do even better than what we do. I should say that. That's how
I tell you though. When you look at this year and how wild everything got and how like there was a point in like late March early through April where I was like I had nothing, but you know getting into this streaming stuff is really meant a lot, and you know finding you know these really getting involved with these platforms has meant a lot. I saw the thing. You know how they give all these year-end things, these emails and stuff you get from now Spotify and YouTube, and it's I forgot the number. It said like 19,000. No, it was like 9,000 hours of something, you know, of streaming or whatever. I was like, damn, I did all that. You know, I was like, it gives you it makes you think about what more you can do if you just get back into it and you keep yourselves dedicated and you know. Like I say, y'all are a big part of it too. Just being able to work with y'all and bounce things off of y'all throughout each day and everything, and you know, it's meant a lot. So it's whatever we're doing, you know, we're doing something, and the bonds that we've made for ourselves in doing this stuff. No matter what it gets us in the end, we still have those bonds, and those are the most important things.
That's the biggest thing. I've always said that if nothing happens and I've had these friendships and I've had these good times, and that's all I need to take from it.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's leave it at that. We'll leave it on a nice, nice.
I'm not saying nothing.
It's truly a testament of the growth and the sacrifices that as an entity we've made over like a decade, really. I feel more connected now than I probably have in about 4 or 5 years. And there's a lot of opportunity with, you know, White Sox, Indians, Bulls, Cavaliers, you know, as an extension of, you know, the family in Chicago having roots now established here in Cleveland. So if there's anything that we can muster up from that standpoint, you know, COVID set us back last year, but, you know, hopefully 2021 and beyond, we'll have a lot of opportunities to do that. Super excited about All-Star Game coming to Cleveland in 2022. I mean, there's definitely some things that we could be working on. So
we need some tickets to that since we need to be up in that spot in 20. Yeah, we need to be. At least we need to take a trip. Hopefully, we all get vaccinated. How quickly y'all get vaccinated? Real quick before we get out of here. You get the first batch.
I'll let me have to call them.
No, I ain't getting the first one. No, I ain't getting the first one.
How long are you gonna wait? How long are you gonna wait?
I'll wait by 2022. But if I need one for the All-Star Game, I'll get it. Because
I said I want the third one, but that's a long way. But I want to get some of them bugs up out of there before I pitch into it.
Yeah. I ain't in that hurry, much of a hurry, but yeah.
All right, that's all.
Well, yeah, Ken Davis, That's Davis, That Davis Show. They're still producing stuff as soon as Ryan gets settled out in the land of the sun. Dedrian, give me your website address, man, where they can see that 89 piece.
Yeah, it's dedriansmc.wordpress.com. You can check out the review of 1989 WWF and NWA. It is lengthy, so I mean, it's a timeless piece. So it's not something that I got to read it now. It's like it's something historical and enjoying stuff like that. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dedrian180.
And he'll be involved with Monday Night War, all the stuff we got with the wrestling. We're doing the ongoing wrestling stuff going into 2021, so you'll be definitely seeing them on this platform.
Yeah, I got another podcast Thursday to do.
He's doing every wrestling podcast going forward. So you'll be if you want to get into that, that's the man to go talk to right there. But Sean, man, what you got, man? You got anything you want to plug, man?
Oh, just my usual, man. My usual shenanigans on Bull's Twitter. Bring perspective from the minority perspective of Bull. I officially did away with my Cubs loyalty. I'm now committed to the dark side fully. So yeah,
you ride with the White Sox fully.
Hold up. What is
that's a little bit of a bombshell there.
Hey, listen, there are a couple things, and you know how I am, Cal. I've been very vocal about my displeasure for the way they've run the baseball side of things after 2016 forward. But to me, the issues with the front office, prioritizing business over baseball to the degree where you kind of cheat the fans, and then just the family ties and not to get off political. I think that probably took the cake for me, and just deciding that it's time to take a step back. Man, I sacrificed a lot of years following the Cubs, but at the same time, I always had love for the White Sox. Grew up going to probably more White Sox games than I did the Cubs, just because I'm a Southsider, and just being excited about what they got cooking. With the young team now. Not a La Russa fan at all, but
I hope not, because I was gonna say you coming over here, we unhappy over here right
now. Yeah, that one ticked me off a little bit, but by and large, I like what they've done to get that team back into a more competitive state. So, I'm riding with the Sox now.
I don't know how genuine.
Got Eaton and Sean back in one offseason.
Right, I don't know how genuine he is, but I'll say this because it's the thing that I was talking about the Bears moving forward, and I'll end it on this. If the Bears don't make changes, even with what we do as far as having a report on this stuff, I'm not watching all the Bears games next year because I'm not giving them all of my fandom, all of my time. And when Sean says that, it speaks to the vein that I'm in right now. And I thought he was going to mention, the partisan type of element when it comes to the Ricketts too. So it's good to hear that. Even though some people shouldn't be like, Kev, you know what? When those partisan views affect us out here in these streets, you should care. But I'm taking away from politics. But if you're going to keep the status quo and devalue, and it goes to the White Sox with Jerry Reinsdorf disrespecting all of us and hiring Tony La Russa. No, listen, I don't care what demographic you come from. You can be in Mount Greenwood. No, for the most part, I bet even it was 50-50 out there. I had Cubs fans hitting me up like, "What's wrong with y'all?" And I'm like, "We ain't happy over here, right?" Like it was all the Sox fans. Like he was not the move, right? If they continue, Jerry Reinsdorf continues to move in that vein, I'm going to still be a fan, but you're not going to have my locked on loyalty because I'm too old and you're disrespecting me, and I don't have time for this type of shit.
It's real.
You showed a lot of arrogance with that move, man, and a depth. You just wasn't listening to your fan base. So you got to hope.
Either.
Yeah, that's not
who Kenny Williams wanted. You like that was arrogance, and this is my toy. Until when you know what, it goes to the White House. When a rich MFer tells me this is my toy, it's time for me to be like, you know what, I'm about to check the fuck out. That's just the truth of the matter. That's it, Sean. That's like I'm not going to keep giving my energy to you, and like that's with all of this.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, man. But if only we could overthrow these owners, like we could at least overthrow our political leaders, at least, you know. But it's only. But yeah, great hanging with you, brothers, man. Appreciate y'all.
Man, love, man. Y'all be safe.
Yeah, enjoy y'all weeks, man. And yeah, we'll like I say, man, we gonna make the flip great again in 2021. We gonna make that happen.
That was, mind you, that was me and you. That was you and my baby that we came up with the flip, because I'm like, we need something like this Merle, right? Like we could be cursing on when we're doing this. We made up the flip, and again, I mean that olive branch is even open. I know, Sean, you haven't been on there, and it doesn't have to be crowded, but it's just a difference of opinion on stuff that's basically outside of sports. Sometimes in sports, but it's stuff that's outside of sports. Dedrian, you know, you're always welcome, but it's just a difference of opinion on talking about stuff and giving, you know, our thoughts. It's just our thoughts on how we feel. But yeah, like that was one of the things that always made it interesting. And it's not bad with just me, Ryan, and Sid, but it can be better. And it's Flipping Friends now. Change the title. It's Flipping Friends.
Yes.
Because you got to give props to D being gone, right? You got to give it that it's not the same. D has left us, and D has there's parts where D carries the show with D's points where it's just like, what? So it's like you got to give props to the fact that one of the central anchors is gone. But yeah, it's Flipping Friend. I didn't name it after me. I didn't really want to name the show after me, but Dedrian was able to get that Davis, even though it was like first was looking for the Davis show, but I didn't even want to do that. But yeah, it's just one of the things. But I've been rambling on too much, and we all got some shit to do as far as going to sleep and watching some sports. So I'm gonna stop talking. And Cal,
I gotta watch wrestling.
Yeah, you go do that, brother. But watching football.
That's it though. That Davis show everywhere online. You could follow that, and same spot you could follow the Flipping Friends. Whatever we got going now, we got hundreds of hours of stuff you can listen to. That's why I've been doing the flashback posts, because we've done so much dope stuff throughout the years, man. Just
you can do flashback posts on stuff that I did too, sir. Back when you was executive producer, do that stuff too.
I did.
Do some more. Keep doing it. Do some more. All right.
Everything I've done has been from that era.
I don't bust your balls.
Yeah, but I just want people to know, like, we've been out here and we ain't going nowhere yet. So keep following WARR on Anchor, wearerigoradio.com, and we keep bringing it to y'all, man, and y'all keep it funky, and keep it safe out here, and have a happy holiday if we don't see y'all before the holidays, man. That's it though for now. Sean, Dedrian, and Ken, appreciate you, brothers.
Anytime.
All right.